earlier, so I'm assuming he's with us. Okay, the time is 6:05, Monday, April 20th, and we are having the Selma City Council meeting for April 20th, 2020. So I'm going to call this meeting to order, and first I need to read a statement to the public. So I'll commence with that. On March 4th, 2020, Governor Newsom proclaimed a state of emergency in California as a result of the threat of the COVID-19. On March 17th, 2020, Governor Newsom issued Executive Order N-2920, which allows local legislative bodies to hold public meetings via teleconferencing to make public meetings accessible telephonically or otherwise electronically to all members of the public to speak who seek to observe and address the local legislative body. Pursuant to Executive Order N-2920, please be advised that some or all of the City of Selma's council will participate in the meeting via teleconference. Public participation. Pursuant to Executive Order N-2920, and given the current health concerns, members of the public can access meetings streamed live online on our YouTube page. Members of the public may not attend the meeting in person. In lieu of attendance at the meeting, the public can provide public comments verbally for the City Council's consideration by calling in on the phone number posted on our agenda. Staff will unmute the public during the meeting when appropriate. Alternatively, the public can send correspondence regarding agenda items by emailing publiccomment@cityofselma.com by 1 p.m. the day of the meeting. With the subject line, Selma City Council meeting correspondence item number, and reference the item on the agenda you wish to discuss. Or you can send it in the subject line, City of Selma non-agenda item. All correspondence that does not relate to a specific item on the agenda has been made part of the official record of this meeting and will be referred to the city manager or staff for any appropriate action or attention. Correspondence that does not relate to, correspondence that does relate to a specific item on the agenda will be addressed as appropriate during consideration of that agenda item to which it relates. Contact the city clerk with any questions by phone at City Hall, area code 559-891-2200, or by emailing using the reference email above, which was publiccomment@cityofselma.com. And I would just ask that my council members, because of all this feedback and stuff, that we wish to speak, just raise your hand like this, and you'll be recognized and give your chance to voice your thoughts and words. So with that, we are going to start with the roll call, please.
Yes, thank you. Councilmember Avalos?
Here.
Councilmember Robertson?
Here.
Councilmember Trujillo?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Guerra?
Here.
Mayor Franco?
Here. And do we have our pastor online for invocation? Our invocation?
Yes, we do. Let me make sure she is unmuted.
Yes.
Okay.
Here.
Okay. Okay, everybody, we have Pastor Lisa Stadenberg, pastor of the Take It By Force Global Church Ministries, who are going to lead us in our invocation today. Go ahead, Pastor.
Yes. Father, our Lord, our God, we give you the glory, the praise, and the honor. We thank you, God, for who you are, as we are so humbled before your throne. And we thank you for, even in the midst of the time of what is taking place, that we are able to gather. We thank you for the city council. We thank you for the mayor. We thank you for the leaders of City of Selma. We thank you for your precious blood that covers every aspect of Selma, every aspect of this meeting now. We thank you for unity. We thank you for the wisdom of God to crown each and every one of their heads, for every decision that is being met for your city to prosper and to progress and to advance forward. We thank you that your hand upon each and every one. We thank you that you are in our midst. And we thank you, Lord, that you continue to move and have your way in the city of Selma. Father, let it prosper and let it be unified like never before. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
And- Okay, pledge of allegiance by Mayor Pro Tem Guerra.
We can please stand, or if you'd like, you can sit and just put your hand over your heart. Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag
of the
United States of America,
of America,
and to
and to the republic
which
it stands,
one nation under God, indivisible, with
with
liberty
liberty and
and
justice
for all.
for all.
All right. Okay. I think I already called for roll call. So potential conflict of interest. Any council member who has a potential conflict of interest may now identify that item and recuse himself from discussing and voting on the matter. So I'll take that as none. We will move on to oral communications. Oral communications. Notice to the public. At this time, any member of the public may address the city council regarding any item which the council has jurisdiction. No action or discussion will be taken on any item not on the agenda. Issue raised will be referred to the city manager for review. Members of the public shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes. City clerk, do we have anyone wishing to leave a comment via email or by phone?
Mayor, we do not have any email comments tonight,
Okay.
nor do we have anyone at this time who has called in to the meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Therefore, we will be going to special presentations. City Code Enforcement Services.
Hello, everybody.
I do apologize. Hang on just 1 second as I get the PowerPoint presentation. So we have on the line, we have our code enforcement Juan Mendez on the line. Juan has provided a PowerPoint presentation that we will begin to share in just a few seconds. I just want to confirm that everybody can see the screen. Can everybody see the screen that I'm sharing?
Yes,
Hello,
Okay,
everybody.
perfect.
So, my name is Juan Mendez. I'm the new code enforcement officer here for the City of Selma, and today I'm going to be doing the code enforcement staff presentation, caseload, the process, and the codes. What do we do as the code enforcement officers? As code enforcement officers, we receive document complaints regarding health, safety, parking, building, business licenses, and municipal code or other city ordinances violations. We investigate complaints, determine the validity of complaints, and take appropriate actions, and assist with preparation of court cases and municipal code violations, which cannot be handled through administrative means, and perform related duties as required. Next slide. We focus. Thank you. We focus on private property. Some of the things that we focus on are vacant nuisance properties, property maintenance, nuisance. Brandon, can you go to the previous slide? Property maintenance, nuisance vehicle on the property, and graffiti Commercial properties, we focus on business license, building permits, property maintenance, weeds, and shopping carts. We use a 2B officer map. Right now, Brandon, can you go to the previous? Thank you. Right now we use a 2B map, beat 1, which is in pink. Which is in the pink is Javier Vidro, and beat 2 is myself. Brandon, can you go to the previous slide to the map? Sorry about that, guys. So we use this map. Every 6 months we rotate maps so that we cover the whole city. The process that we use is an administrative citation and abatement process. First, can you go to the next slide? Thank you. First, we receive the complaint, or we find the investigate nuisance violation, which usually takes about 14 days. And then we move on to the first administrative citation, which they get another 10 days for them to comply. After we go to the second administrative citation, which gives them another 10 days for them to comply with the fine of $200. And the third administrative citation is issued 10 days later for compliance, and it's $500. After that, if they don't not comply, we go to take it over to council to obtain a abatement warrant. After we abate the nuisance, and we put a lien on the property to recover the cost for the abatement. Code Enforcement Cases Transactions Report. This report is from August 28, 2019 through April 20th, 2020. Open cases up to date is 418. Closed cases is 368, with 50 cases that are currently open. The top 3 violation types that we have been focusing on is property maintenance, civil municipal code, and public nuisance. The number of citations from August 28, 2019 to today is going to be 37. Other projects that we have worked on during this time is going to be shopping carts, Rockwell Pond project, and abatement of transient hotspots. Next slide. This is a short video of Rockwell Pond. This is the before. This video was provided by Officer Hughes.
Can you explain what we're watching?
Yeah, so these are the encampments that are along the side of the Rockwell Pond, closest to the farming area, and these are just different encampments, and it shows how they set up their encampment with the material that they use. We did have 9 encampments that we cleaned up, or that got cleaned up. We removed 2 vehicles from the property and removed approximately about 150 tires from the ponding basin. And PD, Code Enforcement, and Fresno County programs assisted in this project to provide shelter and other needs for the transients that were on the property. At this time, code enforcement and PD monitors the ponding basin to prevent any other transients going on the private property. The property has been posted as private to try to keep them out. For this project, we used 3 50-yard containers to remove all the junk and debris that was left behind. And there's going to be a after video after everything was cleaned up, also provided by Officer Hughes. Next slide. Okay, and these are before and after pictures. The top being before. There's pictures of tires, shopping carts, bags full of trash. One of the cabinets there in the middle. It just showed the kind of materials that they used to build their little shelters. And this is a trailer full of tires that we pulled out of the ponding basin. The bottom pictures are just after everything was removed from the ponding basin. Next slide. And then these are samples of things that we focus on when we're out patrolling, which is graffiti. Next slide. Parking on lawns. Next slide. Illegal dumping in alleys, sidewalks. Next slide. And property maintenance. All right, all these properties, the pictures I have included, they have been cleaned up and they had complied with my request. The summary and direction for code enforcement is to continue to be proactive and abate city blight that include property nuisance, vacant properties, property maintenance, nuisance vehicles, graffiti, illegal dumping, and commercial vehicles in the city limits. And then this is our information on how to contact Officer Javier Vidro and myself. Um, we have our phone numbers, our emails. We can also use the City of Selma the action line. It has our email to eGov, or just call reception 891-2200. We will receive the complaint, go out, investigate, and take action. And that is the end, guys. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, does any council member have any questions for our presenter? If so, please raise your hand. I
Scott?
can only see. I can't see Scott, so, okay.
I have a question.
There you go.
Juan, how many of your cases go all the way to adjudication?
At this point, we're for myself, I am in the first step of the first admin sites. I know Javier has gone as far as second admin site before, and then after the property owner abated the issue or the problem on the property.
I know the Selma Healthcare District paid the cost to haul away the trash in the alleys on the west side and the east side of town recently. How are those alleys looking since that cleanup?
They look much better, much cleaner. We are patrolling those alleys daily to ensure that we keep those alleys clean.
Because I think that really made the town look better and reduce the blight. And I'm glad to see that you and Javier are patrolling that to make sure that it stays looking clean. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
By the way, will we be able to get this presentation emailed to us?
Yes.
Thank you.
We will do our best to email the presentation. There is that drone video that takes up a lot of storage memory, but we will post it on our website. And for the majority of it, I think will be able to be emailed. But that drone video, I think we will have to take that part out in order to send that over.
Understandable.
Ren, I believe Jim raised his hand as well. Is it having a comment?
Yeah, one, good job, guys, on the cleanup operation. And also, I also thank the Selma Healthcare District donating to pay somebody to clean the alleys through our communities. That's great. Juan, there's another buildup going on the other side of town again, on the alleys over there by Nebraska, right by the hanging goat on the tree.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we're
You guys are addressing that issue?
yes, we are aware of the issue. So we are monitoring the area. We went out there, investigated, gathered the necessary information, created cases, and letters or I'm not too sure if they are being sent out at this point or are going to be sent out by tomorrow noon to address the issue with property owners, since they are responsible for the areas in the alleys.
But also, the reason I'm bringing that up, Juan, I know it's not the property owners. It's usually the homeless issue that are actually doing the damage. How are we addressing those issues with the homeless issues that are actually endeavoring our community with trash and buildup of mattresses and tires? How do we handling these people?
So we are currently working with Fresno County. Services that they provide. We call them out here every time we go out to these areas. We work with the police department to identify these individuals, and then we ask the property owners to work with us to clean up the area. We try to use the services that we have available to get that the area cleaned up, like remove the trash and use the services to remove the people from there. You know, put them in a shelter. And you just use the services that we have available. So we patrol and try to work with the public. At this point, the services that we do have are through Fresno County.
On those services on the behalf, we're doing the service, same program off the freeway as well. People living off the freeway encampments inside our city limits and our freeway bridges and stuff like this. Are we doing the operation abatement operation as well?
Right. Yes. In those areas, we work with Caltrans to clean up these areas. And they have their own process to clean up, but we do assist as we can, and we are allowed.
Okay. Thank you. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
It makes a big difference. It is. It looks a whole lot better.
Does Mayor Pro Tem Guerra or Councilman Frio have anything to say? If not,
I have
will
something to
ask
say.
Okay. Go ahead,
Juan,
Sarah.
I would like to ask, my understanding there was quite a bit of individuals that were in that encampment. Do you know where they went? Where did they get assistance, or did they just go to another location? Because I'm getting information that some of them went over to the Rite Aid building or the old Rite Aid.
Yes. So before, we went out there a couple of days before we actually cleaned up the ponding basin, and we had Fresno County's services go out there without us. That way, because when code enforcement goes out there with those services, it seems like those people kind of shut down. So when they went out there, I know from my understanding, 2 of the people got accepted the services, and a few more left the area, but they went over to like homes, like relatives, and they just go out there for a couple of days, and then they go back to the street. They were moving around they went from Rockwell Pond to this Save Bar area. So what we do is when we find these hotspots, we contact Fresno County's services so they can go out there and offer them the assistance. I know there's a service here in Selma that we try to direct them to those services so they can get help. A lot of the times they refuse to help because they don't want to leave Selma.
Okay, thank you.
Is it possible to go back to that presentation? And I just want to look at the map of the beat 1, beat 2 map. Brena?
I'm not able to tell. Can you see?
I can see it. Okay. So right now, this is the city's divided into 2 zones or 2 districts, however you want to word it. And you have 1 district and Javier has the other district, correct?
Yes.
And how long have you been in your district, which is, I believe you said you're in District 2 right now?
Yes, I have been here going on 6 months.
6 months. So you're getting ready to go back to District 1?
Yes, so this is going to be my first time going over to District 1 since I started.
Okay. Okay, and then my inquiry is more just specific to our shopping carts ordinance, and that, we still have an issue with shopping carts being all over the place. It's gotten better, but it's still noticeable. So I just want to know, have you been working with our ordinance since you joined the team, and you found it useful or productive? I mean,
Yes, we have set a base that we can use to clean up or abate these nuisance shopping carts. As we patrol the city, if we see any shopping cart that's on the streets, private or public, we do take notes, and if they are unmarked, we are working with Public Works to get these carts removed. And if they are marked, we contact the store manager to get those shopping carts picked up at least within 2-3 days. There is a letter that's going to be sent out to every store in town that has shopping carts, and that letter is being reviewed by ISIC at this moment for approval. That way, the letters can go out, so the stores can submit plans for the shopping carts. For example, like retrieval and what steps they are taking to maintain the shopping carts on their property.
the reason I asked this is that I noticed there's shopping carts that been out, and they've been out for over, I would say easily going on 2 weeks that I noticed it, maybe just under 2 weeks. So
Okay.
Say you don't see it, if a citizen doesn't report it, if city staff doesn't see it and report it, I mean, is it only up to you to find it, or I'm just thinking, because if we have city staff driving all over the place, and I can't believe that everyone has missed these carts. So I mean,
for now, what we are waiting for is for this letter to be approved to send out to the stores, so they can submit their plans. Once a plan is submitted, and then we'll have grounds to enforce the ordinance. Once the ordinance is enforced, and then it will get pushed out to every department like Public Works, PD. That way, with contact information, so they can contact code enforcement.
okay.
So
And
we can go.
And then my other question is the link, the Ego V link, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And that's for anybody to use, the public or staff can use that, or is that just internal?
That is for the public. Anybody can use it.
Okay. All right. And I know you mentioned that they've been monitoring Walkwell Pond since the cleanup. Is it still clean?
Yes, it is still clean.
No. Right. Thank you. Those are the only questions I have. Thank you.
And thank you.
Okay. With that, I believe that will conclude our special presentation, and we'll move on to consent calendar. All items listed under the consent calendar category are considered routine. The complete consent calendar will be enacted by one motion by roll call vote. For purposes of discussion, any council member may have any item removed from the consent calendar and made part of the regular agenda. The council then can approve the remainder of the consent calendar. Does any council member wish to move any item? If so, please raise your hand. Okay, Councilmember Robertson and Guerra, go ahead and Councilman Robertson, you first.
Start with page 15. Check number 74513 to Allied Storage Containers, Inc. Move
Stop.
containers.
I'm sorry, what item did you want removed, which is check register?
Oh, item C, check register.
Item C, then we'll check with Sarah, and then we'll go to your question after that. She said the same?
Yeah, same item.
Okay, Scott, item C, go ahead.
Item C, check number 74513 on page 15, allied storage containers for $3,422.39. Is that part of the police station project? And if it is, why isn't that covered under Measure P?
Hi, this is Isaac. I can answer that question. That is not part of the police station project at all. It's actually just storage containers for Public Works and for the Recreation Department to be able to store some of their products, equipment, things of that nature within storage containers at the Public Works yard itself.
Okay, thank you. Halfway down the page, item 74531, Consolidated Irrigation District, Rockwell Pond fee, $50,000. How many payments has the city made so far on this?
We made one during the initial execution of the contract itself. This is going to be the second one. There was a total of 4 payments that need to be made. So they will be billing us on an annual basis from this point forward.
Will those bills be $50,000 a year?
That's correct.
And that's to buy the Rockwell Pond, is that correct, to transfer it?
That's correct. That was part of the initial contract that we have with them.
Thank you. Page 16, check number 74574, Odell Planning and Research, Selma Grove EIR, Addendum Planning Services, $13,826.10. Is the EIR now finished on that? Has it been completed?
It is not complete. That was just the initial first payment that went out. So they're still working on the document now.
How much more has to be done for the EIR to be completed on that?
Just for clarification, it's not a full EIR. It's actually an amendment to their existing EIR. But I will touch base with the planner and get an update to the status of how much longer is on that project.
Great, thank you. That's all I have for the check register.
Okay, and I have two of them. Page 15, check number 74536. And it says Nutty Nutcracker tickets for $6,233.85.
1 second. The beauty of Zoom is I can actually pull the live copy of the check and get some more detail for you. Reimbursement for Nutty Nutcracker tickets reserved, online tickets sold through Findini. It was the first payment, so they're refunding it back. I'm assuming it's because of the COVID transactions. They had to refund it because the transaction would not take place.
Okay.
And maybe Mike, if you have any other comment, maybe you can speak to that as well.
Okay, and then the next page, check number 74574. And that's for, oh, that's the same one. I'm sorry. That was in, it's the next page, 74626. And it says summer shirts for the amount of $3,306.30. Can you ask me what was that for?
Yeah, I believe it's the annual purchase for Public Works for the uniforms. Let me just double check that right now.
That's correct, Isaac.
Okay, yeah, that's correct. It's uniform expense. They have an allotment of different shirts they can wear during the summer.
Oh, okay.
So they can have cooler uniforms.
Okay, that's it for me.
I can clarify the Nutty Nutcracker also if you need to.
Okay, if no further questions, do I have a motion to accept consent calendar item 1A, B, and C?
I make a motion.
Second.
Take your pick, Raina.
We'll just go down the roll call, and we'll go Mayor Pro Tem Guerra,
Aye.
Councilmember Robertson. I'm sorry, Councilmember Robertson,
Aye.
Councilmember Avalos,
Aye.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Aye.
Mayor Franco.
Aye.
Motion passes on item 1A, 1B, and 1C.
Okay. Agenda item number 2, which is the public hearing. Consideration on a resolution approving and authorizing the city manager to execute energy services contract with NG Services US and secure financing for energy loan program. Once again, this is a public hearing. Mr. Moreno?
Thank you, Mayor, council members. This item before you is an energy efficiency project. It consists of different aspects, some of it being LED lighting, some of it being solar arrays, different items like that to get more energy efficient. Some of the locations that will actually have, so there was a full assessment that was done to assess properties, energy efficiency through the NG organization. There was 3 locations that actually can qualify for a solar project, which would be a full array. That would be the Brentlinger Park, which would feed pumps and things of that nature. You have City Hall, as well as Schaefer, which would feed another pump as well. The rest of the buildings and locations would get LED lighting upgrades. The total cost of this project is projected at $1.5 million. If there was an exhibit A that went out to you on a later date today, I believe, that item actually projects a total savings for the term of 30 years, which is estimated to be the useful life of this project to be a little over $3 million. As part of this contract, there also is what we call a guaranteed savings. So the guaranteed savings within the contract itself is basically stating that through this process, each year you have an initial assessment from the beginning, I want to say the first 5 years. And then they set a benchmark to say that, okay, for the first year, we estimate that you will be saving about $95,000, and they guarantee that amount. So per the contract, if we don't hit that benchmark, the ANZ organization will actually reimburse us for that main gap. In addition to that, you can see within the contract and as well as part of your staff report that there are multiple increments and different values throughout the term of the 20 years. Each amount varies as you go through the years. The one caveat is, for example, if you have energy savings within the first year of, let's say for a rough number, $110,000. So you have additional savings over your guaranteed amount. Let's say in year 2, you actually had a reduction and you didn't meet your benchmark of $99,000, but you had additional savings from the prior year, which actually can offset that loss that you had in that previous year. So it does consolidate and roll over. So that's one caveat for this contract that you'd have. There is going to be initial financing that will transpire. The cash flow report that you received has a projection of 1.3 as an interest rate. That is a little aggressive. We haven't locked any interest rates in yet. We are looking at the market right now about 1.3 to 1.7 within that range for the term of about 19 years we're hoping to secure. So once this contract is approved, the financing part and myself will be executing an RFP to different organizations, banks, organizations that we've worked with, organizations that are recommended through our financial advisors and other groups that we've worked with to make sure we can get a good rate for this project. So that'll be, once that is done and we can get that executed, that in turn will actually execute this contract. So this contract is actually pending on execution and being able to lock down the security of the lease payment over the term that is projected within this schedule. As you can see for these scheduled payments, you can see it's a little different. You have a range of payments between $50,000 up to $177,000. What the difference is, because is, as you can see, is the net savings. You want to be able to have a positive cash flow. So the savings from one period to another are never the same. You have energy cost savings, M&O cost savings, incentive programs for the very beginning of the year. So you really want to be able to go through each term of the year and see a positive cash flow. So that's why you see a lease payment structure that's a little more different than what you normally see. Normally you see a flat, for example, $100,000 payment every single year. So this is a little bit different in that sense. That, for the most part, kind of concludes. I know we have our organization on NG Services that has kind of gone through this process for us. And I'll leave it at this point to them if they want to add to something that I missed. Agio, are you there?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Moreno. I'm Ashu Jain with NG Services. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be to attend this council meeting. I just wanted to clarify two things, and one was I think Mr. Moreno mentioned 1.3 and 1.7%. It should be 0.3 and 2.7%.
I'm sorry, you're correct. 2.3 between 2.7, yes.
Right, so that's where the interest rates are fluctuating quite a bit. They're at historical lows right now. So it's a good time to go out for project financing. So we expect, very attractive interest rates to come back, but it'll be somewhere in that range. The other thing is just minor, we do, the contract contains a contingency. If the city is not available, if the city is not able to get financing for this project within 60 days, that can be mutually extended, the contract will be null and void. So you do have that, it's not like if you get 5% financing, you still have to sign the contract. I mean, the contract will be signed, but so the intention is that the contract will be executed right now, but it does contain a contingency there that if the adequate financing is not arranged, then the city can this contract becomes null and void, and the city does not owe us a dime for any of the work that we've done post-contract signing. I don't know if I made that clear. So the contract will be executed, but it does have a contingency for financing. Be happy to answer any of the questions that you might have. I do have the rest of our team here also.
One other note I'd like to add to that too as well, just for full disclosure, this would be a general fund obligation. So any lease payment that occurs because of this project will be directly allocated to the general fund. But as mentioned in my staff report, the savings that are generated because of this energy efficiency project are a majority in the general fund. There are some savings within the street funds as well as in the arts fund, but those are very small and minimal compared to the project savings as a whole. Is there any other questions?
I believe Councilmember Trujillo had a question.
Yes, right now I do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Good evening, Naju. The question I have is in regards to the system you'll be bringing to the city of Selma. Will it be almost the same system you'll be bringing that you brought to SKF, and in regards to the battery packs, and will the warranties be the same that we had? I know we had some further discussion through the SKF. So my concern is just to see in regards to what we're doing with that and what your plan is with that.
Yeah, Councilmember Trujillo, yeah, so we did present our first year findings to Selma Kingsburg Fowler County Sanitation District. We completed 1 year of measurement and verification. And as you know, Councilmember Trujillo sits on that board. And that we did that 2 weeks ago, and we proved to the district that we saved $1 million for them, which is what we get. We saved a little more than what we get guaranteed. To answer your question, Councilmember, we are not recommending battery storage. We're just doing solar project, not battery storage here, because the sites have fairly small usage, and battery storage was not making economical sense, financial sense.
Good.
And the solar panels carry the same warranty that we offer to SKF.
Good. Okay, that's good. Thank you. And I'd like to say that we did, you did show the $1 million savings, and I congratulate you for that. That was a good project, and I'm happy to hear we won't be dealing with those battery packs. Thank you.
Is there
Mr.
any
Hine, I
other
have a
council?
question. I would like to know, is there any upfront cost to the city?
Mr. Moreno, do you want me to answer that?
I can take it, sure.
Yeah, please go
It's
ahead.
the amount that we're gonna be financing is the 1.5 institutional funds, but no upfront cost. Really what it is there gonna be an execution amount, mobilization amount, but it's part of the 1.5. So once we secure the financing, it'll just be part the first payment that actually goes out to them. And then they'll be paid like a standard contract for construction projects. They'll be submitting invoices and reimbursed as they go through that construction phase.
Okay, which is what?
The initial amount, first amount, the mobilization amount, is that that you're
Yes.
referring to? 1 second, I will try and find that. Do you have that amount?
Yeah, it's roughly, it's like, from my memory, I said 285,000, something like that.
Yeah, it's a couple 100,000, I know that.
Yeah.
285,000?
Correct. It's 283,446. So let me explain. So the city will be financing that 1.5 million, and then we have a mobilization amount. And so it's not money that's coming out of any of your funds, it's coming out of the financing. The reason we have this amount for mobilization, because the first thing we do is order all the solar panels and start the engineering and all that. So we do have to pay our suppliers. After the initial mobilization, it'll take us another, we'll complete the engineering and deliver material, and then we'll have another invoice. So that's the reason we have a mobilization amount. It's for all the work that we've done until now, the engineering that we will be doing, and ordering all the material for which we have to pay a mobilization amount.
Is there any other questions before I open up to public comments?
Yeah, this is Shane with Public Works. I don't have a question, but I have a comment. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Me and my department have, since the assessment was made with NG, we've probably replaced or repaired in the upwards of 200 lights, fixtures, etc. And I think it'd be beneficial to the city for me to sit down with NG, and I got a pretty detailed report list, if you will, just to go over what's changed since we first met. I just want to throw that out there.
This is Isaac. NG's aware of the upgrades. That'll be part of their step process to lock down what's been upgraded and what's not. So
Okay,
I think Aju has actually made that statement that's pretty standard for these agreements, that there would be some retrofitting prior to the execution of the contract. So we will sit down with Shane and Aju and his team and reconcile those amounts.
Beautiful. I just want to make sure that we were aware of that. Thank you, Isaac.
City Clerk, is there any members of the public who, I'm going to open this to public hearing. So is there any members of the public that have reached out to you to express their opinion on this matter?
Thank you, Mayor. There is no members of the public on live or on any emails.
Okay, with that, I will bring it back to council. Any final thoughts on this, guys? All right.
Hello.
Councilmember Robertson had a comment.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to weigh in on this. That was good to hear from our Public Works Director. It'd be beneficial for him to sit down, since it looks like this list was compiled a while back. I think this is a great plan, and I am all for solar. I think it's a great energy source, and I think the city should move in that direction. At this point, on April 20th, I don't think it's the wise thing for the city to be taking on a financial commitment, no matter how that will be paid back in the future, which I believe it will. It will still be a financial commitment of $1.5 million. And we have not gotten through the 2020-2021 budget yet, which in light of COVID-19 is going to be especially challenging. I don't know if the timing is right for this item right now, though I think it would be right and a good thing and a smart thing to go through with after we go through the budget for this year.
This is Ashu Jain. May I address that if that's okay, Mayor? Is that fine?
Oh,
Okay.
Go ahead, Ash.
Okay, so Councilman Robertson, you bring up a good point, and I like to offer you, why it still makes sense for the city to move forward with this project. This project has basically, it is not costing the city anything because what you're really doing is taking money out of your operating fund, your utilities, and instead of paying PG&E, you're paying part of that money to the bank for financing this project. Now, it would make sense if you think that in the future PG&E's cost might be coming down. That because of COVID, the PG&E's cost might come down, and that's why you might not see enough savings. The fact is that PG&E is under a lot of stress nowadays, and they've asked for a 14% increase in electricity prices for next year. And because they have to upgrade their entire, the transmission grid, there's really nobody thinking that, everybody knows that PG&E's price is going to keep going up. So really what you're doing here is redirecting your operating fund, your utilities fund to, reduce your dependence more on PG&E. So if there was a chance that, your utilities expense might go down, that would be a risk on this project, but I don't think that's a risk that anybody would agree with. So as long as the utility prices keep going up, our price is fixed, which means the lease payments will be fixed. So really you have a fixed amount of lease payments, and what's funding those lease payments is actually just going to keep going up. So there is no way you can lose on this project. So I think this is actually a project that you should be doing at this moment to save money, because you are under stress. Your budgets are under stress. There are a lot of counties and cities who are approaching us to do these projects just because this is a source of savings that that they can realize right now. Thank you.
Could I respond?
Go ahead, Scott.
Duly noted, and I am not disputing the cost savings that will be had with this program. I think it's a fine one. What I have an issue with right now, Ashu, is the timing and encumbering the city with a $1.5 million obligation. And I just think the timing the city would be better served if we tabled this until after we have the budget talks this year and see exactly what we will have in terms of revenue, tax revenue, revenue for salaries and operating costs and expenses before we encumber ourselves with this $1.5 million lease obligation. That's my thinking on this.
Is there any other comments from council?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
This is for Isaac.
Yes.
I'd like to know, has this gone out for bid?
When the initial contract came in, it did not go out to bid. NG organization, as you're well aware, has large projects within different entities that we've talked to. SKF being one. There were very large projects as which they recognize savings already. We talked to other organizations out there that utilize them, and they came well recommended.
To Yenji, but I'm just wanting to know why we didn't get another bid. I'd like to see 2 other bids at least, just to make sure that we are getting the best deal, or, you know, the best.
Program that you're referring to. So right now, what we do have with NG Services USA is an agreement already for the pre-assessment that they did. If we did choose to go to another direction as part of that initial agreement that was put into place with them, we would have to pay NG if we do not go with this program. I believe it's $20,000. As part of the initial program that was our agreement that was executed in September of 2018.
Let me address this question, if I may.
Yes, please.
Okay, so Mayor Pro Tem, you know, there's special legislation in California that allows these projects to be negotiated sole source, and that was done because there is a heavy cost that companies like us bear to develop these projects. As you know, your council approved a development agreement with us back in September of 2018, and we've been working since that time to put this project together. And there've been some delays, but these projects are done based on a design build assumption, and we have proven time and again that we are very competitive. In fact, we have not changed our pricing for the last 18 months. And so as far as getting more bids, it's really, this is a project that we've been developing over months, and it takes a lot of time and effort, and that's why there was legislation created to encourage these kind of projects. And we have proven time and again that we are very competitive. We just, in the last month of just December of 2019, we booked $62 million worth of contracts just in the Central Valley, and they were all sole source. And we sit down with, we'll be happy. We sit down with staff and show them our pricing and make sure that they understand that we are making a fair margin. So we make 5% in gross margin and 10% in overheads. And that's our, and it's very, very fair. And it's something that we are happy to always sit down with staff and prove that. But we've spent a lot of time and effort, in developing this project, and it's really difficult. If you wanted competition, I mean, and we talked about that back in September of 2018. Companies like us would not take the time and effort to put these projects together. We would go ask you to do the competition up front.
Is there any other questions or comments from the council members?
Yeah.
Councilmember Avalos and Councilmember Trujillo both have questions.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Johnny. Go ahead, Johnny.
Are you sure, Jim? I have a couple of questions. When this was brought back to us, I think it was the last council meeting we had, and my question was, if we invested money back in 2019 of September for this project, and it was being brought up to us in the last council meeting that we were at City Hall, I questioned the fact as to why we were, why we hadn't been told or what was going on. And I think staff said that they didn't have, or they felt they didn't have the proper information or didn't feel comfortable with the information. Now we're sitting here. The questions I have is, our city council members in the past invested 25 or 20, I may be wrong with the number, 25 to $24,000 to do this investment with Angie. And now we're talking about tabling it, or we're talking about, timing. And the question I have for staff is, it's not in regards to, the project not saving money, or the question I have is, where were we at, and why are we here at this present time? Why did it take us this long to bring it to fruition? And if we had invested money, this is public money. This is public, our community money that we spend. And we as council members have the right to understand what was the protocol through our city staff, and what were their concerns, and why are we at this point, approving it at this point? That's the reason why we should be on it completely. And those are the questions I have, more so as to the savings, or the not doing it. That's my concern, and those are my questions. Thank you.
Sure, I can speak to that. So the initial execution, and just so you're aware, there has been no initial payment, just an execution of an agreement for services so that they can perform the actual energy assessment. So there has been no funds that actually have been sent to NG and their organization for the payment of any services rendered at this time, just the execution of the agreements. The agreement, as Ajua stated out, has been worked for quite some time and been assessed. The project scope has changed and varied through the assessments. Like at one point there were streetlights in it. Part of that assessment has gone through, and we through the public works, we have assessed that they would do that through their own scope. So that has been removed. So we have constantly worked this project. Yes, it has taken some time. I do apologize for that. Going through your assessments and your priority structures, you have to kind of take all these projects, and some get shifted, unfortunately, but some come back to fruition. So we don't necessarily get dropped. It just more of something takes more precedence, and we have to keep working at our timelines to schedule on the allotments that we have. So I do apologize that it has taken some time.
Apologies are not accepted when you're working with public funds. One question I do want to say is, the question was actually directed to the city manager. If we as a city council, we direct and we apply, or we're gonna move money for any kind of project, I'd like for the council to be, we should be advised, at least if it's monthly, if it's every other council meetings, we should have, what I was asking is, if it's gonna take us this long, we should have, at the end of the day, if we drop this project and we spend $20,000 and have to give to Angie for $20,000, that's public funds. We're the ones that answer to the community, not the staff. So apologies are not accepted. What I'm asking is, when we do these kind of projects, we do an assessment. If our council approves something, all I want to do, all I would like to be told is where our progress is at. Give our council notification. We hadn't, I mean, we got told maybe about a month ago in regards to this project, and I was really concerned about that. That was one of the, we have another project that is concerned, has been dragging along. I want to know where our staff is and how we're actually structuring our plans. And you said you push them back and forth. Well, I want to know that. I want to know what projects are getting pushed, when you're going to push them and you're going to move them. If you're going to move projects and you're going to delay them, I want to know that. So when you come back and we go back to our constituents and have to explain to why we spend $20,000, I want to know when we were having that discussion as to why we're doing it. I really want everybody to know that that's a big concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Trujillo. I just wanted to share that I get your message loud and clear that you would like updates on progress more frequently with projects.
Jim, did you have a comment, Jim?
Yes. Go ahead, Sarah. You had something?
Well, I just wanted to add, just on the dates. They said this was back in September of 2018 when it first initially started. So council member Trujillo, myself, weren't on council. So this was prior to us. So we're a new council. So I understand, and again, no disrespect to Mr. Ashu, but I still don't understand why we wouldn't have at least gotten another bid or or 3 bids?
So, if you really want true bids, you would really need to create a bid documents, plans and specs. And, for a $1.5 million project, that would cost $60,000 to $70,000 at the minimum, more like 90 to 100,000. Any engineer or architect costs 6% of the project cost. So if you wanted to go that route, you would have to spend, $80,000 to $100,000 to create these bid documents. Now, companies like us come in and take on that risk. We have spent over $50,000 on this project until now. And, I'm sure staff is aware of that. And so that's the risk that we are taking on behalf of the city. And, that's why these projects don't go out to bid. We did $100 million worth of projects in the Central Valley last year. 99% of those projects don't go out to bid because it's not easy to bid out these projects. It takes us, 6 months to develop the scope, run it through, staff. And, if you really wanted to do a bid, even today, if you want to do a bid, you'll still have to hire an engineer and come up with plans and specs. Otherwise, you'll get pricing all over the place. And, that was never the plan. And that's what we had made clear back in September 2018, that you can go this route or you can go the other route where you do get bids. But I have not come across a city which is willing to spend that kind of money, $80,000 to $100,000, to create bid documents, not knowing even what the savings would be. And then we are guaranteeing the savings. So, again, even if you had hired an engineer to draw plans and specs, you wouldn't get that guarantee because, we're not guaranteeing somebody else's work. So it gets really complicated. But that's the reason that's the way these projects get done. We just did, like I mentioned, City of Madera, completely sole source, 19 million. City of Fireball, completely sole source last year. City of Mendota, completely sole source. So all these projects were done sole source because we take on all the risks on behalf of the customer. We develop the project at risk. We're guaranteeing the savings. If anything goes wrong, there is no engineer that we'll blame it on. It's us.
Okay. Jim, did you have something to say?
Yeah. First, I'm going to thank the gentleman for enlightening us with the cost savings and what took place back in the time frame. I thank you very much. I was there, and at the time, the city was financially structured, but now I have nothing against the solar operation right now. I just want all I'm saying. We're in a COVID-19 right now. We don't know. All I'm asking maybe for an extension for about a month to look at the issues as far as what is going to take place on the COVID-19 with the state level on our tax structure. Because I don't want to say, hey, let's go for it now and tell this gentleman we can't pay for it. I don't want to do that to the city. I don't want to jeopardize it, but I want to be fair. I want to be fair to this gentleman. He's put a lot of time and effort to it. And I think if we delay it for about a month, I think it gives it time to analyze our structure as far as the COVID-19. I think we'll be more in the state level and the federal level where we're going to be at in our structure and our finances to our city. I don't want to, because the reason why I'm telling you this, guys, I'm the old guy in the council. Okay. When I came on the council, times were good. And one year it turned like that. Man, we had to lay people off and we had to, do some structure, in our financing operation. It hurt our bond rating. So we had to fix our bond rating as time went on. We were shorthanded in staff as we are now. And we're going through now another crisis. Until you've been in a crisis like I have, you get it real quick. Okay. And I think by delaying it, and nothing against the gentleman, just delaying it maybe about a month just to get a gauge where we're at in our structure in our city, and to be fair for this gentleman here. I have not, he did a lot of hard work in preparing this and the cost. I get it. And I think it'd be a wise choice at this time. I'm gonna make a motion to table this.
Oh, hold on, Jim. Before you make the motion, I'd like to share my thoughts.
Go ahead.
I think everybody here brought up valid points. We don't know what's coming for us because not only are we in a health crisis, we're going to be immediately followed by a financial crisis. But at the same time, we got to think ahead and put our community in our city in a position to come back from that crisis. You know, after the last financial crisis, we really haven't done much of anything. Our infrastructure is still in dire need. Our businesses are really still leaving, and we don't know how much more we're going to lose. But as council members have stated, the timing is key. I agree that it's a good project and it's going to pay for itself and it's going to save us money. But I don't think at this point we're so close to the budget workshop, as consensus has said, that it does not hurt to go through the budget workshop at least, and then bring this back up for consideration. So with that, Jim, you can continue with your table.
Yeah,
If you like.
Yeah, I'll make the motion just to table it, to get and look at our, like we're concerned, you know, there's nothing against the gentleman. I have nothing against the gentleman. It's just that the concerns for the city and for all of us, you know, it'd be a wise decision at this time, just to table it, maybe for a couple of months. That way you look at our budget. How much time do we have?
Hold on, Aju.
So,
what is that? Is there any time sensitive components on this? To say if we did executed this program, say in June or July or late May, would other than just the interest rate is the only cost factor, or are there other variables we should know about?
well, you know, the fact is that we've been maintaining a price and you know, barring what's happened in the last 2 months, construction costs have gone up tremendously. But you know, if you want to delay it by a month or 2 months, I would, you know, I think there is one way to do it, and that is if you could direct staff to figure the financing out, because we don't really do anything until the financing is in place. And if you can direct staff to figure the financing out, go out to the bid on the financing, that doesn't mean you're spending a penny. You're just finalizing the financing. And staff can bring back the financing and our project back in end of May, you know, first meeting in June. I think you'll have the time, and we haven't lost any time because we really don't do anything until the financing is in place. So that's, instead of doing it in sequence, I'm just saying do it in parallel, finalize the financing, bring both the financing and the project back in late May or early June.
And then that will give time for our Public Works Director to share his thoughts with you in the meantime.
Absolutely.
I believe we have a first. Are we going to call for a second before we open the floor to discussion? If so, I would second.
Who's gonna, hang on, Scott.
Second.
Hold on.
You have.
Jim,
Jim,
hold on, Scott. Jim, I don't know if you're finished with your motion, and then if that's not the case,
before I make, I might change the motion here a little bit. I'm going to ask Neil a question. He's our attorney. Okay, what is the time on this, Neil, for his contract to be? Is there a time limit? We have to approve his?
There is no time limit. There is no
Okay.
contractual time limit. It's really up to NG whether or not they want to stick around. And I think what he's proposing to you is rational. That allows us time to go out and search out the financing right now. Not give the interest rates a chance to go up. That doesn't cost us anything. And that it doesn't, it eliminates any delay that NG would otherwise have as a result of you tabling it. So I think that's a very good idea.
Now, the tabling timeframe, should we put 2 months, 3 months? Because I don't know what structure, how long it's gonna take the financial structure to.
Well, you're at April 20th
Budget.
now. If you put it out for a month, that puts you at your second meeting in May.
June?
I would think that you're likely not going to be able to get responses to RFPs within less than 60 days. So I would suggest that you move it out to perhaps your second meeting in June.
I was thinking maybe July. The reason why I'm saying, because this COVID-19, everything is is slow processed.
Well, that'll give time to do the budget as well.
Yeah.
It is, and July would be fine. I mean, the only impediment that's possible here is that NG decides to walk away.
Okay.
And if they're okay with us going to our first meeting in July,
Mr.
then we're good to go.
I'm asking, is it okay? I'm kind of asking a direct question. IG?
Oh, yeah. So I think we were allowed 60 days for financing. So, financing companies are used to turning these proposals around in 15 days. And it takes them, another 15 days to close the document. So, this is not something, we already actually did, back in 2018, we had done a bid for this project on behalf of the city because we have no interest in the financing. And so, we do the financing on these, help in financing of these projects every week, and 2 weeks is more than enough. So we would prefer that you go back in the second meeting in June, but it is entirely up to you what date you choose. We would, if it's the second meeting of June, we will feel more comfortable, but I'm not going to say that if it's the first meeting in July, we're going to walk away.
Okay. I'll make the motion to second week in June.
And are you also directing staff to seek RFPs?
RSP
for the
financing operations. And by then we should have our financing of the city's financing as well. We can have it in time as well.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Robertson, I stopped before you shared your thoughts. Is there anything else you wish to share?
No, I believe I share my thoughts, and I
okay.
say thank you, Ashu, for coming tonight and eloquently presenting the case for what will ultimately be a real beneficial program for the city. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Avalos?
Aye.
Councilmember Robertson?
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Guerra?
Aye.
Mayor Franco?
Aye. Well, we'll come back to this in July.
Thank you, June. Anyway, thank
you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for your patience.
Oh, thanks to every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to agenda item number 3, regular business.
Anybody for a break? Can we get a 3-minute break?
How about a 3.5 minute break, everybody?
Thank you.
Need a motion?
No, I'll just call it.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Can I leave the meeting?
I can see you, Neil. I can see you, Franco. No,
For some reason, I can't see you.
good. It's better that way. Man with no hair. In the 60s, I was a hippie. I had long hair.
That goes away at a certain age, no matter what you do to them.
Which one did I click?
Are we back?
Not quite yet.
Oh, there I am. I needed makeup before we start. Where's my makeup artist? No. This was 7B, which was it's 141. It's on almost the next one. Now you can unstable it. Yeah. Yeah. We need anything to sign or anything like that? Okay.
Are we all back?
Not quite.
Okay.
Just no one's come back yet. We're back.
You guys ready? Give me a thumbs up. Are you guys ready? Okay. Councilman Trio, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. City Clerk, are you there?
That is correct. I am here. So
Okay,
let the
we're gonna
record show
reconvene.
Let the record show that the break began at 7:29 and we reconvened at 7:34.
Okay.
Okay, we are moving on to agenda item number 3, regular business. Consideration of a resolution supporting alternative 3 as identified in the state Route 99 Mountain View feasibility study and by our engineer Daggett. Is staff on hand?
I do not believe I see him on the call yet. Isaac, do you want to take the report?
Or we can move to item 4 if you prefer.
Maybe I can go ahead and give it a shot since he hasn't dialed in. So this item, sorry, Mayor, Council members, the item you have in front of you, we consider a resolution for an alternative number 3 identified in the State 99 Mountain View feasibility study. This report was done some months ago, basically assessing the Mountain View overpass, as you're well aware, is now at a failing level. There are multiple issues with the overall structure itself. Some being queuing, some being traffic flows, just overall safety for the project as a whole. So the groups that came together are the Fresno Council of Governments, Tulare County Association of Governments, City of Kingsburg, and then also City of Selma and staff, as well as Caltrans. Some of those members are on the line as well. They can speak to the project and the assessment study that went done. So what we're doing here is identifying through that assessment, there were multiple alternatives that were actually presented. Alternative number 1, which was a realignment of the ramps of all stopways, which although had a price of the total capital project for 7.1 to 8.9, The lifespan of that alternative actually would not take us very well out, and if I do remember correctly, would still give us a failing letter to with current today. Alternative number 2, similar. It is signalization. So realignment of the off ramps and signalization of the intersection controls. The alternative would widen Mountain View Avenue on each side of the overcrossing with the left and right turn lane pockets. Although this did assist more so than alternative number 1, would still have a short-term lifespan that would project a failing lifespan or failing measure. Alternative number 3 is a projected roundabout. The realignment of the ramps and roundabout on both sides of the intersection, which you're looking at here. There will be some larger scale project, or this project itself does have a pricing point of 9.8 million to 12.3 million. I'm sorry, 10.1 million to 12.6 million. But the overall lifespan of this will actually take us to 2045 and beyond, with still a safe measure throughout the project. The actual final alternative is alternative number 4. Alternative number 4 is a full build out, including roundabouts, lane expansion, signalization, a total overview or overchange of the actual project itself, including the bridge. As you can see, the hook ramps and things of that nature coming from what a full build out would look like. As you can see, in addition to, you can see multiple lanes on the bridge itself. The other alternatives only consisted of the 1 lane on each side. This one is actually a full build out with the 4 lanes on each side, which, as you know, from the construction that happened in Fresno, does take some time. There are also some traffic congestion issues that you would occur within that time frame. But the biggest issue with this one, I think, would just be overall the pricing point that you'd have was 61 million to 77 million overall. So today, what we're looking at is for a recommendation to actually pursue alternative number 3 and which was identified in the feasibility study, so that we can pursue in conjunction with our other partners, again, Caltrans, COG, TCOG, City of Kingsburg, for additional state, local, regional, state funding sources to move forward with this project. Is there any questions regarding this resolution?
I might also add that the City of Kingsburg and the City of Dinuba have also looked at the language in this resolution and are also in support of alternative 3. Kingsburg may be taking this item to its City Council on May 6th at the earliest, and Dinuba is scheduled to take this resolution of support to its council on April 28th, so that we have regional alignment in support of these measures that will help us move forward towards Measure C ballot initiative funding advocacy. And our partners are on the line as well.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Scott.
My question, Isaac, is
Yes.
who's going to pay for this? Who's paying for these on-ramps?
Well, right now there is no identified funding source. That is the purpose of this resolution, so that we can, as a group, collaborate and actually go look for funding, whether that's the next round of Measure C, looking at state funds, looking at federal funds. It's just allowing us to come together, select an alternative so that we're on the same page and can together try and look for funding sources. It is seen as a regional project.
My next question would be, of that, if we are on a team with Kingsburg, Dinuba, and Tulare County, how much would Selma's part be in paying for this project?
I think that would have to be discussed as far as what alternatives are out there and how much we're actually received. So that's part of the scope we'd have to discuss once we identify funding sources and what that allocation would look like. So I don't have a set number for you now as far as a percentage, but as that goes through and we find funding sources, we can identify at that time what that spread may look like.
And then finally, what would the developer's percentage of input be? Who was ever developing in that area? What would their participation be?
Well, as the developers themselves, one, just so you're aware, full disclosure, they the largest developer will be out there, Selma Crossing, Tim Jones. He is aware of the scope of the project. He has seen the alternatives and things of that nature. So, and also the stations that are out there. One of them is looking at, it is on the south west corner. They were potentially doing some construction. They have seen the scope of it as well to make sure that their growth pattern meets the needs of the alternatives that are presented. They would be paying into it as more of a development impact fee structure as it occurs. Selma Crossing, it does have some additional requirements, I believe, and don't quote me, I think there's a development impact, or not development, but a development agreement that would be executed, if not executed already. They would have to assess that because they would have some environmental impacts that would definitely directly impact the intersection.
And then finally, what would the timeline be for this project?
Maybe Caltrans can speak to that a little bit more. They've had better knowledge of what these projects' timelines look like. There are some additional steps that go into it. This is just a feasibility study. You still have to go into full design, things of that nature. So it does take some time.
Thank you.
Is there anybody from Caltrans on the line?
Yes. Can anybody hear me? My name is Kurt Hatton. I'm a project manager with Caltrans. Can you guys hear and see me?
I can hear you.
We can, Kurt.
Perfect. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for letting us have the opportunity here to talk a little bit about the feasibility study. Those are all great questions, and I think the answers in that will be the project initiation document that would be the next step. And I guess I want to just caution everybody quickly here with maybe the next step would be to enter into a cooperative agreement with the local agencies and the state and produce a PID document, a project initiation document. I don't want to, we do have a process that we go through that will identify an alternative that would be a preferred alternative. So as we've discussed, alternative 1 and alternative 2, alternative 3. Alternative 3 seems to be a very positive alternative. I would like to try to maybe not recommend that alternative just yet. And maybe the alternative would be, or maybe the process would be to enter into the cooperative agreement and let the process determine the appropriate alternative. With that PID document, it will get us a well-defined purpose and need. It'll give us a project scope, and it will also give us cost estimates and a timeline that we can put together. And that document does also give us some ability to compete in the various programs, the STIP program, the SHOP program. So with that document, it allows us that opportunity, and it does answer a lot of these questions that we have. The feasibility study is a planning level study. It's a great study to kind of get some ideas and maybe get some footprints and some general costs. But the real thing in my world is kind of let that process go. You have the project initiation document, you get the approval on that, and then you go into the environmental document and the project approval phase. So I can talk about some general timelines if we want to talk about that, and maybe hopefully I try to answer some questions too. So
okay.
Hey,
so
Kurt, maybe I'm sorry, Mayor. Can I just make one point? So, Kurt, are you recommending that we don't pick one today? Is that?
Yeah, that I wanted clarification on that as well.
Well, yeah. I don't know if I would not want to pick an alternative. You could have an alternative be I don't know what the right word is, but we would like to, we wouldn't get to an approved alternative until, in my world, until you would have a project, a P&ED phase, a project approval and environmental document, because that means you're looking at the whole project. You go out to public opinion at that time, you get feedback from the public. Alternative 3 looks like a very good alternative. I don't want to maybe necessarily,
Maybe if you're saying you don't want to get too out in front and make a predetermined without doing all the analysis. Is that maybe what I'm understanding, Kurt?
Correct.
The resolution says that the city supports the alternative 3 as identified and is also committed to the long-term alternative. This was something that we discussed with Fresno County Council of Governments and understood that this would be a next step to get that regional commitment towards progress that would help move this along. I don't know if any of our partners with COG might want to speak to that, and also Caltrans comments.
Teresa?
Yes.
Tony Bourne here with Fresno COG.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm watching on YouTube and I'm talking on the phone, so a little bit of delay there. I would say to Kurt, probably should connect with Mike Navarro to talk about what's taken place so far with this alternative study. In effect, it sort of served as a PID, somewhat in lieu of a PID, in that we basically looked at the different alternatives. So I don't know that you're going to get anything different when you do the full-on PID. You're going to get more level of financial detail, no doubt. But the point of tonight's action, I think, is really just to, I know, speaking for Tulare TCAG, Ted, I don't know if he's on the line, but Fresno
I'm
COG,
here.
everyone, if we don't kind of zoom in like this is it and begin to work to bring together the funding pieces of the puzzle, shall we say, then, I'm not certain what value the PID would have. What would you do with the PID, and who's going to fund that? If we don't, who would you ask to fund that?
Well, yeah, that would be an item that we would need to discuss. It would be a cooperative venture, and it would. I don't know who would fund it.
How much are PIDs?
So the feasibility study was a jointly funded partnership.
Yeah, but how much are we talking about the project initiation document? How much would that run?
Well, a full project initiation document, I've talked to a few other project managers who just recently did some interchange improvement project initiation documents, and they're anywhere from 200 to 300,000. But I do agree there has been some work done on the feasibility study that definitely could be added to the document. Now, I in support, maybe we're just getting caught up in semantics here. I'm just looking for an approval is where I'm concerned. Support, I'm all for it. An approval is in my world a little difficult, because I need that environmental phase and that project approval document.
Yeah. Hey, Kurt, this is Mike. Hey, Tony, I'm on the phone as well. Let me jump in real quick. So I think you guys are both correct. I think we are getting kind of cut up on semantics. First of all, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, members of council, for having this on your agenda and having the foresight to look into this, because funding these interchanges is no easy task, as Tony was kind of alluding to. And so kind of what we've done in the past, we've kind of done these feasibility studies, which aren't really in our normal project delivery process, which is kind of what Kurt's getting hung up on a little bit right now. We've kind of used these. We've done these with TCAG on occasion as well, where it's kind of like a cheaper version of a PID, but it gives us a way to kind of strategically select what our next steps are, as far as, do we move forward towards a PID? Do we even go down that road? And I think what the intent of this was to look at kind of long-term solutions at 99 and Mountain View, because you have development proposed there as part of your growth area, and then also look at some interim improvements that may be fundable. So I think what Kurt is saying, from a project delivery standpoint, Kurt kind of has to go through a PID process at some point for us to formally adopt an alternative. You go into PID, you go into PNED, which is like your environmental document, and only at that point, from a Caltrans project delivery process, can you say this is our selected alternative. When you look at the alternatives we've looked at so far, obviously, you look at one alternative looks very viable with the roundabouts and it has a 2045 life, so you get a lot of life out of it. Sounds like it could be a very viable alternative. It just, Kurt really can't come out and say that in his world until we go through the necessary steps, because then you're kind of making a decision without going through the whole public comment period and the public process, is why he's having trouble saying that. But like I said, we invested a lot of money in the feasibility study. Hopefully we can recoup some of that savings when we go through the PID, where maybe it's not in that $200,000, $300,000 range. And in all likelihood, we very easily could come up with the same alternative 3. But like I said, in our world, we can't just say, let's spend $90,000 on a feasibility study and say this is your alternative without going through those other necessary steps, if that makes sense. But I think the end game is to really put the city, TCAG, Dinuba, and like I said, hats off to you guys for all of you collaborating with as many agencies involved and striving towards a common goal, recognize the importance of this interchange. But the idea is to put us in a position where the city, TCAG, all the, Fresno COG, you're in line to apply for grant money, measure money, et cetera. That's the only way interchanges get built now. Because you saw the price tag of $60-70 million. I mean, looks like to be a lot of value in the $10 to $12 million range. It looks like it's feasible, but at the end of the day, we kind of have to go through these steps little by little, if that makes sense.
So, Mike, who are you suggesting pays for the PID, the 200 or 300K?
Yeah, so the PID, I mean, it's going to have to be paid by somebody, and at this point, I think it's going to have to be either a shared cost. It could come out of the fee impact program. It could come out of local development. It could be a mutually funded venture as well. But unfortunately, for the interchange, it's going to have to be locally funded in some shape or form.
So could Caltrans fund the PID, or is that not a reality?
Typically, we can't, because the money that we have really goes on interregional improvements like the mainline freeway. We usually don't fund interchanges, unfortunately. So a PID isn't something we would typically fund for an interchange.
Money, Mike, because there's a safety issue there. It's breaking down. It's definitely in the degradation stage right now. Might there be some?
Yeah, so I don't know if it really qualify for shopping from a safety standpoint. I mean, we could look at safety numbers. Typically, when if there's an identified safety problem in those ramp intersections, we could theoretically look at them, but then what they're going to do is they're going to look at more of they're not going to look at an improvement that's going to give you 20 years of life, because that's viewed more as a capacity enhancing project. Because you're talking about 2045 design life on the alternative 3 we showed. You would look at something to just basically address the safety problem. So you have broadside, they might do something that fixed sight distance on those lines. So I don't think you would get the improvement you're looking for if we took it on as a safety project.
Hey, Mike, this is Eric Olson too.
Yes, sir.
I'll chime in a little bit. Yeah, we spoke with Coco, our safety officer, and Albert Lee's group, the operations, and there weren't any. And we talk about that in the feasibility study. There weren't any issues that rose to the level of triggering either a safety or an operational project. But as far as the PID cost, there's opportunity, I think, for us to visit what that might cost, because Kurt, you said that recent interchange PIDs were 200,000. Well, this project would actually be an operational improvement project, not a interchange project for the alternatives that we're considering. So with that and with all of the work that's already been done, I think we have a good head start. We could revisit that and possibly, have a lot cheaper PID for this particular effort.
Yeah, you're probably right.
That sounded
Councilmember Avalos and Councilmember Trujillo have questions.
Go ahead, Johnny.
Thanks, Jib. So, well, actually, I think Kurt answered my question. I think a lot of us are actually putting the carriage before the horse. I think probably would be best if we get together and form a joint venture between Selma, Kingsburg, Dinuba, and maybe just take the step one step at a time and show a unified. And if we have to break down the cost, then we can start talking and get the work in the numbers. But if we join forces, I think would be a lot better. And I think that's what probably would be the best step. And I commend everyone that actually started this. I'm really excited about this. I think this is a good step for us. I think it's a regional. It's going to be a good hub, and I think we need to keep. I think we should actually just approve this and move forward and let's start talking. This is great. This is good. This is good talk. I appreciate everybody on the call, and I thank you guys.
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, the other question I'm gonna ask, okay, what happened in the past with the Dinuba Bridge there, crossing? What happened there? Dinuba Avenue.
I can probably speak to that. I can probably speak to that briefly. Yeah, we did. I mean, we've looked at Dinuba. I know that's a concept that was brought up years ago with all the development that's going on around Floral. And I think how it all kind of started out initially was that we have an interchange Floral that we all know is at capacity. And I have a lot of history in Selma. I've been reviewing projects there for probably some 20 years. And we've recognized that the issue is kind of the east-west capacity is an issue because the choking point is really not as much the ramps, but the traffic going underneath Floral, getting from the residential side to the commercial side. So in theory, Selma brought up and we talked with them jointly about the idea of another interchange in Dinuba to the north. So thinking about a couple of years back, we at Fresno Cog actually funded a study because a lot of it was just conversation at first, but we actually did an analysis where they brought in a contract consultant, VRPA, who did an analysis. When they looked at it, I looked at Dinuba and it said, yeah, you can get some life at Dinuba with a bridge, but it wasn't going to really fix your issue at Floral. So the conclusion of the study, as I recall it, was you could build Dinuba, you could build a bridge there, but it's not going to save you any money at Floral. You'll still need the same improvements at Floral Avenue, even with Dinuba overcrossing. So I think that's kind of where it was left at that point was, do we even still look at it if it's not going to remedy Floral, or do we hang off on Dinuba? Because Dinuba, if you look at it, it doesn't really have like the east-west connectivity you normally see with interchanges. They're really not a leg to the west. And then east kind of functions more as a collector road right now. It doesn't really function as a larger arterial. So like I said, the analysis didn't really show a whole lot of viability is my recollection, despite the demand for it from like the development community, like Rockwell Pond, et cetera.
Yeah, let me ask you another question, Mike. Since you did bring it up as you've been there, and another 15 years, no way could you get off that off ramp. Being impossible, they'll be backed all the way to halfway to Fresno.
That could possibly be.
The way the traffic is moving.
Yeah,
the way the studies are. Go ahead.
Yeah, you may very well be correct. I think, like I said, when you look at those two studies or look at the Dinuba study, the thing was, I think with the decision we talked about, I think we had, I'm sure you were there, we had a kind of a workshop council meeting with a developer a couple of years ago to talk about that study a little bit. And I think what was left on the table at that point was acknowledged that Floral was going to need some improvements there. But the answer at that time was the city should decide, do they want to invest in Dinuba and invest in Floral, or do they want to prioritize one over the other? And I think that decision was never quite made at that point. I think it was just kind of left up in the air.
Yeah. So
there'll be an investment in Floral at some point. I'm just not sure if you want to afford. Because now we're looking at Mountain View. If you fund the interchange at Dinuba, whether it's just an overcrossing, does that leave any money for Floral, which is going to need attention at some point as well?
That's the other issue I'm getting at as well. Okay, because a point was made that the city of Selma would more likely have to fund the bridge on Mountain View because it's basically it's in our sphere of influence, bottom line. And I don't know how much Dinuba would pay or Tulare County is going to make this. And Johnny brought a good point up. Until you come to the table with the stakeholders, okay, how much these guys are going to chip in? If we're going to chip in 90%, hey, that's a lot of money.
Sure.
I'd like to make a comment. Thanks for everybody for sharing their thoughts. And this is a subject not about about Dinuba, but it's about Mountain View. And
yeah, Mountain View, yes, right.
Yeah, but Mountain View, what this resolution all is doing is just a resolution. It's not a commitment to funds because quite frankly, nobody has the funds to do it. It's just a resolution of 3 communities to turn this into a regional project. So all of our lobbyists and all of our grant writers can go seek funding to pay for it. And that's all it is. It's just forming a coalition to say, hey, we have a regional project, because the other interchanges that we have in Selma belong to Selma and they will not be regional projects. But on this one, we can work with our neighbors as a team to say, hey, we all support this, and it makes it a regional project. And that's all this resolution is. And I think all TCOG and Fresno COG have worked on this messaging with all three communities, and we've met, and that is the point of this resolution. So it's not we're committing to pay for it. It's not how much it costs, because we really don't know, because these are estimates. It's just the first step on finding funding to address that interchange that needs to be addressed.
But it doesn't have to be paid.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, you're right, Franco. The issue, but the also issue is none of the parties have come forward and say we're going to be in a co-op agreement, like Johnny said earlier. You know, it's true. I think maybe we should table this issue until we actually talk to our counterparts. Are we going to come together and sign an agreement together? So we're going to fund this as a funding.
Well, it
no
also
sense of agreeing for something that we don't have. You know, like Johnny says, the cart before the horse. We haven't made an agreement yet.
Well, hold on, Scott, then I'll recognize you after. Jim, that's what this is. We're voting on this resolution. Dinuba's going to be voting it, and then Kingsburg's going to be voting on it. We're all voting on similar resolutions in the next coming weeks.
Well,
so
you know what?
It's just saying that, hey, let's come together and work on the process. It's not a etch in stone commitment to do anything other than let's work together in the future.
Well,
Go ahead, Councilmember Robertson.
I think that's what we've already been talking about, and it's already been happening. I don't know why we're actually doing this tonight. I think Mr. Hatton brought up a good point, that to decide to, pare this down to a particular alternative is probably premature. I mean, I think it's a good thing to keep looking into this, not privileging it over other projects that may benefit our city and our area, because let's face it, an interchange in our city will have benefits for the other cities in our area. So I guess I don't have a problem with the language to support this project and push it forward, to collaborate with the cities. I'm just a little uncomfortable given what the professional has said tonight, that we probably can't really narrow it down to a particular alternative at this point. Can we change the language to just go forward on this and look at all the alternatives? And also, if we do go forward with alternative 3, are we going to have tunnel vision? And is that PID going to just address alternative 3 rather than dig a little deeper on alternatives 1, 2, and the L9, which might yield some more information? There might be different things that happen. If we kept it, it'd be better than to make it specific.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody from Fresno COG or Tulare COG want to address Councilman's concerns. I know you guys have been working on this for quite some time on the best way to write a resolution that is appealing to both all funding sources available out there.
Sure. Mayor Franco, go ahead, Ted. You go first.
I'm sorry. This is Ted Swan, the director, Tony's partner, and Larry here. We've actually started talking to our board 3 years ago about this project. And our board, the TCAC board, is very supportive of us partnering and us bringing significant funding to partner. We all don't know what that split is, but with a roundabout alternative, we have federal funding that we can bring to the table, and it makes it very flexible to bring some money to the table. I think Tony and we always talk about, can we fund a project? And when you look at alternative 3, that's not a crazy amount for us to try to find a solution to fund within 10 years. When you look at your long-term alternative, that's pretty way out there. That's significant money. But I would just encourage you that we should move forward and let's look at what we can do. Because I think the environmental tends to weed things out, because some things become financially not viable. And alternative 1 and 2 probably don't satisfy the amount of traffic improvements we need. So those things tend to play themselves out. And I think alternative 3 gives us this idea that there is a solution there, whether it's fully like that or when the environmental's done, it's slightly tweaked. But I just want to reaffirm Dinuba and Tulare are very supportive of moving forward in a true partnership. And I don't think it's going to be something like 90% Selma like what was raised earlier. I think there'll be significant money from our county.
Well, I know if we don't have a partnership, it might be 100% Selma. So, I mean, that's the whole thing. It benefits us to work together, and we have our community partners wanting to work with us. And it's just the first of many long steps and just the next one. So I think we should move forward with this. The COGS have looked at it diligently for quite some time, and I think it's not costing us any money. So I think we shouldn't hesitate to do it at this moment.
Mayor Franco, Tony Bourne, Fresno COG, some last thoughts. Again, you're not committing anything other than that you're going to give the green light to our staff and TCAG staff to go out and pursue money, but we need a project to sort of go after. So I think the feasibility study is kind of, as Mike said, served as an in lieu PID. So I feel comfortable that we, again, to Ted's point, 10 million, 12 million, that's a very fundable project, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a significant project, but it's very fundable given the different partners. And my fear is that if we hold off and wait for the PID, which may be a $200,000 document in this post-COVID budget world, it may be very, very difficult for our local agencies to come up with money. So that's part of it. And I guess that's, I'll shut up right there and let you guys go ahead and make your decision.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this resolution in support of the alternative, just in support of this resolution. I think it's a good project to identify the State Route 99 in Mountain View feasibility study.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Okay, I will second that motion. Roll call, please.
I do apologize, Mayor Franco. At this time, I need to ask anybody on the line if there's any public comment on the item.
Thank you.
Hi, I do see that we have a caller on the line. Caller, do you have any public comment on this item? Okay, I think that caller does not have any public comment. I will take roll. Councilmember Trujillo?
Aye.
Mayor Franco?
Aye.
Councilmember Avalos?
No, I'd like to table this issue, really. For the next people who voted on the next county, I want to see how they're going to vote.
I want to table it too.
Councilmember Robertson?
No, I'd like to table it as well.
So is somebody making a motion to table?
I'm making a motion to table this.
So what's your motion to table to when, Jim?
I want to table till probably next, what's the time, Tony, what's the time limit on it?
No time limit, Jim.
Okay. Give us a couple of months. That way we'll know exactly where we're at.
After the budget?
Yeah.
So the motion is you want a couple of months. Can you give a more specific date? Because we have two other communities who are supporting a overchange in the sphere of influence of Selma. So to be a little bit more workful with them, can you give a more firm date, Jim, than a couple of months?
Okay, what's the other group? What's the date the other group's gonna come in?
First, second meeting in May.
In May? Maybe.
The second meeting would be Kingsburg, and then Dinuba is going to take it to their council on the 28th. So
we'll do it. Okay, we'll do it after we'll do it after Kingsburg. So it'd be after May would be what, June?
First meeting in June.
First meeting in June. By then we'll know
Yeah.
how the stakeholders are gonna hold. We have a better understanding.
And just so you're aware that the stakeholders have received presentations from COG and from Caltrans, and they are in support of Alternative 3. They have
Yeah,
expressed that to
But
us.
I want to see how the other Dynuma's gonna vote, Kingsburg gonna vote. And then by then we have a little more definite answer as far as how we're gonna get this funding and how we're gonna do it. Like
Mayor, I have a
Tony
question.
says, how we're gonna get the pig, go get the pig.
Yeah, well, okay. So we had a motion and I believe Councilman Robertson, you seconded it?
Yes.
Okay, the motion till the date, can you clarify that again?
June.
All right. Roll call, please.
Just to confirm, that motion was to table this matter to the council meeting scheduled for June 1st. Is that correct,
That's
Councilmember
correct.
Avalos?
Yes,
Councilmember Avalos?
yes.
Councilmember Robertson?
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Guerra?
Yes.
Mayor Franco?
I'm gonna vote no. I don't think we should wait to see other communities are willing to invest in Selma Sphere of Influence. I think we should have taken the lead on this. I do support the project and I'm gonna vote no, and hopefully that we all change our opinions and are willing to take the step to invest in Selma on June 1st. So my vote is no. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us, and we will talk to you again in June.
Thank you, Michael, for reporting. Thank you, Tony, guys, COG, Caltrans, thank you.
Okay, agenda item number 4. Consideration on a resolution approving the final parcel map number 2017-0044, authorizing execution of a development agreement. Mr. Costanza?
Mayor, members of the council, there's a difference between a subdivision map and a parcel map. Subdivisions are divisions of land that consist of more than 5 lots. Everything else is a parcel map. This is a division that results in 4 lots and a remainder. And because it's a parcel map as opposed to a subdivision map, the council was not involved in the approval of the tentative map as you would have been if it were a subdivision map. Your planning commission approved the tentative map for this, and the obligation of approving the final map under your code falls on this city council. So your engineer has received and reviewed the proposed final map. He has verified that it is consistent with all of the conditions in the tentative parcel map. He has also determined what the required public improvements are that are to be dedicated to the city of Selma, and prepared a estimate of the cost of those improvements, which are primarily sidewalks, curbs, gutters, and drive approaches. There is a development agreement which only exists to fix the amount of the bonds that the subdivider is required to post in order to ensure completion of those public improvements. So that's all this resolution does, is it simply approves the final parcel map so that construction can commence, and requires the developer to post the bonds that are required to ensure completion of the public improvement portion of that project. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
No questions from the council? Go ahead, Councilman Robertson.
What's going to be built on this? Are they going to be single family homes, or is it going to be an apartment, duplex, triplex? What's going on?
Single family homes.
And
all of the lots are between 7,000 and 8,000 square feet, so they're fairly large lots. This is located at Evergreen and Orange, and it basically backs up against the CID canal that is right there.
And what's the sewer line situation? Has SKF indicated there's any problem with servicing those homes?
No, that got approved in 2017 when they approved the tentative map. They had to get the will serve letter from SKF. They've got that, and basically they just connect right there in the street.
So this is the end of the road.
Main.
Everything, they've gotten all their improvements, their approvals, entitlements. This is it. This is the last approval before they can break ground and start building. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does any other council member have any questions before I open it up for public comment? Okay, with that, City Clerk, do we have anybody wishing to comment on this item?
I do see that we have a caller on the line. Caller, do you have any public comment for agenda item that we are currently on regarding the final parcel map, number 2017-0044, regarding 2336 Orange Avenue? There being no comments, there being no public comment at this time.
Okay, with that, I'm going to return it back to council. And okay, this has been approved by the Planning Commission. Seems pretty straightforward that somebody wants to break up their lot and put some homes on there, on a lot that has been basically just empty for forever. So any thoughts on anybody?
No, I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Avalos,
Aye.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Aye.
Councilmember Robertson,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Guerra,
Aye.
Mayor Franco.
Aye. Okay. Item number 5, consideration of a request and application from Waste Management for special interim rate review to increase annual refuge charge to be added to the 2021 Fresno County property tax roll, in addition to annual consumer price index increase. City Manager Gallivan, please.
Thank you, Mayor Franco, members of the council. As stated, this is a special interim rate review request from Waste Management, in addition to the annual consumer price index increase that they received per their contract on their services to our residents. Staff recommends that council consider whether they would like to proceed with the special rate increase as proposed, or negotiate a special rate increase, have the city manager do that, or proceed only with the annual CPI increase per the contract. In any case, this evening, we would like you to adopt a resolution confirming the annual CPI increase so that we can get to work on adding that on the Fresno County property tax roll for residential properties. So annually, as we mentioned, we do prepare a list of residential trash assessments that go on the Fresno County property tax roll per our contract. This year's CPI calculation, the increase will be 2.15%, 2.15%, and that has been verified by Waste Management and the Finance Department. As I mentioned, Waste Management has also asked for the special interim rate review, and that process is a special application is considered if there's three different criteria that they could meet per our contract in order to proceed with this consideration of the special rate review. And last year they approached us for that. We received the documentation that showed that they did have changes in the law or regulations that affected their disposal costs, and they were not reasonably foreseen or anticipated, and it changed the way that they have to do business, increasing their costs. That documentation was submitted to us June 28th of last year, June 28th, 2019. Our contract says that in addition to meeting certain criteria to consider the special rate review, it also says that the calculations for their compensation shall not be adjusted for past variances of actual costs from those projected. And that they also have to submit their special application and justification within 90 days prior to the date it becomes effective. And the property tax rule, that process has to be completed by the beginning of July at the latest. So we did not have the documentation last year that we received on June 28, 2019, did not make the time to get on the property tax roll last year for the residential customers. At that point, Waste Management asked that we look at the commercial customers and just doing that for commercial customers. And staff did start doing due diligence with Waste Management on that. And then by January, it was determined that we would wait and do, instead of doing two consecutive 218 processes, Prop 218 processes, that they would like to go, they wanted to do residential and commercial, and that we would bring those forward as we are now. The documentation that you've received shows the actions of the Chinese government and other foreign governments adopting more stringent qualifications for receiving recyclable materials, which has definitely changed the way that Waste Management does business and has undergone additional sorting costs and increased labor costs for their work. And they are on the line, obviously, to discuss all of this with you. And on January 21st, 2020, we received their formal request to move forward with the new rate increase, commercial being 1.09% in addition to CPI, additional roll-off charges, and residential increase of 3.92% in addition to the CPI. That was received in January. Then last week, we received some additional information prior to this agenda item going out that they would like to actually increase the rate to an increase of 5.82% in addition to the CPI of 2.15%, bringing it to an increase of 7.9% for all customer groups. And they also would like to add 8 new fees to in this rate adjustment. Those are their requests. And these increases do factor in compensation for losses. And again, our contract indicates that those would not be adjusted. I also outlined in the staff report the timeline that we would, if you want to move forward with the special rate increase review, as they've requested, we would do 2 public hearing notices, and we would also mail out Prop 218 compliance mailings, and we would have a public hearing on July 6th in order to make sure that any rate increase that is approved goes on the property tax rolls in a timely fashion for this upcoming property tax roll. And the interim rate review sheet is attached, as well as there's a sheet that outlines how the adjustment that they're requesting was derived. That's in attachment D. It's up on the screen now. So if you go to the third.
Hold on. Thank you, Teresa.
Certainly. And both sheets of rates are there for your review.
Right. I thank you for that synopsis. what I wanted to say is what I forgot to mention at the top of when I read the agenda item, that I actually met with Sandra Persley, who's like a just regional public affairs agent for Waste Management about 6 weeks ago. And she stated that she's been trying to deal with for over 2 years, over 2.5 years, she's been trying to address this issue with the city of Selma, and that the longer that we waited, the worse it was, making it more difficult of the rate increase to be. And we are at risk of losing some services. So what I'm going to ask is that if we could just continue this, table this to the next meeting, and I would like Waste Management to give us a presentation on these options, a detailed presentation on why they feel they're necessary or if they're necessary, because I'm a bit concerned. It seems that we have a culture here on city staff of waiting too long to bring issues to council, and then coming to council when things are when our backs are against the wall and we're limited in our choices. So I don't think does Waste Management have a presentation ready for us today?
Yes, I do. This is Liz Gomez. I'm public sector, one of the representatives here locally. And my responsibility, of course, is to overlook and oversee our contracts. I do thank you for the opportunity this evening that you did put it on the agenda. And there's some, there's a letter actually that it's included in your packet that actually states when we first began making requests on costs that we were incurring having to do with recycling.
Okay.
I'd like to start our, by giving some background on why we're having this conversation. Several years ago, dating back to our initial request, which was actually in 2018, China changed laws that changed the face of recycling forever. No one saw this coming. These unfortunate circumstances brought on as a result of actions by the Chinese government led to impossible quality standards for material, which drove up the cost of recycling considerably. After this material was essentially worthless, meaning there was really no one to buy it, and the cost to collect and process material skyrocketed. The value of the material used to cover these costs, but in March of 2018, Waste Management actually began paying for processing recyclables. Even with all this going on, a considerable increase in our costs per ton, Waste Management continued to provide the same level of recycling services to the city of Selma. We've done everything we can to minimize the impacts, including changing processors, but now and in the foreseeable future, it will cost Waste Management approximately $177,000 more per year to provide the same services at the current tonnage levels, and we are asking that rates reflect this increased costs. On top of that, we have absorbed these increases in cost over the past few years, dating back to our original request in 2018, while waiting in good faith for this to come before you. Now, let me give you a summary of what is needed to maintain recycling at current levels in the city of Selma. To clarify, the request before you, you're looking at the standard CPI of 2.15 combined with an additional 5.28 specific to recycling to align rates to current costs. This catches recycling up from no cost per ton to $50 per ton starting in July. On top of that, we have absorbed over $450,000 since our original request in 2018. We appreciate your direction on developing a plan to recoup past costs already paid. And I do know that the city manager mentioned that the contract states that we cannot recoup past costs. In that same provision, it says except when you are requesting through the special interim rate review, which is what we have done all along. And to thank you for the discussion and for your support in helping us align customer rates for the actual cost of providing recycling. And that is going forward in July 1 of 2020.
Does any council members have any questions before I see if there's public comments?
Yeah, Lisa?
Yes,
Thank
it's
thank
Liz.
you. Thank you for the presentation. Yeah, and you're, and Franco, earlier, you're right. We haven't, how to say, updated our operation. Waste Management's tried, and every time it never, something always happened. I understand, I get it. But I'll wait to the public comments, and I'll make another comment on this particular issue.
Does any other council members have any comments before I open it to public?
Mr. Frank, Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So if this issue was brought to our attention March 1st of 2018.
We can't hear him.
If this issue was brought to the council in March 1st of a concern.
It was actually April 1st of 2018 in our annual request for increase. We also had requested the ability to pass through these costs at that time.
April 1st, 2018.
Correct.
Once again, I'm gonna beat the horn of we're dealing with public funds, and you know I'm an advocate of looking, reviewing, and justifying why we're gonna charge our residents, and we are legislators. We're here to make sure that we do our due diligence, and one thing that comes out to my attention is who's holding in our staff, who's holding these projects to a point where they're not actually clarifying it to our city council, or the question I should ask is, has the city council been brought to abreast in regards to this issue? As me being on council for the last, when I got elected, was it brought to the council's? Was it brought to the council prior to us getting on, myself and Sarah Guerra getting on, the Councilwoman Guerra getting on council? Can I ask that question, staff? Was it brought to council? Was it ever discussed?
Councilmember Trujillo and Mayor, council members, my understanding is in 2018, when it was brought forward to the then interim city manager, that there may have been some discussion with council, but it did not move forward. It was not brought forward as a special rate review at that time. It was denied to move forward.
So I guess we could keep going and going and going. This is a big concern. At the end of the day, we're here bringing it to the council for a discussion and an approval to affect our residents.
Correct.
Same. These are issues that I've been looking at for the last year and a half, 2 years. Our council making decisions where it affects our residents. So I'd like, aside of what's going on here, and aside of, I would love for it to be tabled and have Waste Management come and discuss with us and give us some more information as to what occurred, what they've been doing, because at the end of the day, we have to give everybody a fair choice of, a fair game. And if there was some increases back in 2018 and they weren't being brought up, I'd like to know who in our staff is actually calling that shot. Who's telling us don't bring it to council, or give us, staff, can you please explain to me why you've kept it from us and not explained it to us and brought it to us and made it to a point where it was going to be an increase?
So Councilmember Trujillo and Mayor, council members, as I mentioned, we did get this request last year. Per our contract, there is a timeline and a process in order to get it on the residential property tax rolls, and that timeline wasn't met. So that is why that happened that way. And we wanted to move forward with commercial. There was due diligence, because we do take it very seriously as well, that when there's a request for a rate increase, that we do our due diligence. And I know there was considerable back and forth between financial analysts on the rates, the commercial rates that were being proposed. We received information about our neighboring communities and what their rates are in order to understand the justification for this special rate increase, and we wanted to make sure it met the criteria of our contract with Waste Management when we bring it to you, so you have all the information available. So this,
I agree. I'll accept that, but at the end of the day, I have to tell the residents that they're going to get a rate increase. And we were discussing this for 2 years, and now it falls on our lap. We're the ones that are going to have to represent our community and tell them why we're getting a rate increase. All I'm asking is if we can, at the end of the day, we can get some information brought to us so I can have my residents fully they can understand why they're getting this increase and what we did prior to that. And if our staff says they did all their due diligence and this is the rate increase they should get, or if this is not the rate increase they should not get, well, then we'll discuss it. But bring it upon us and give us the information that we can have to review.
And if I may, all along, the request has been made, you know, and it hasn't been after the fact. I mean, it's been while we were having these costs increase, we have been in discussion with the city, and we have been making this request. And we did go through the contract to specifically find in what area and what clause are we able to do this. And in doing so, there was certain steps that need to be met. And we were very careful to make sure that all those steps and those processes were in place so that so they could come before you. And that's what we've just been working on with them in good faith to be able to get to that point. And that started in 2018. And here we are, 2020, and the new rates need to be implemented July 1. And that is why we're here this evening, so that we can get some approval on at least addressing going forward. Now, there will be some past costs that still need to be addressed and need to be discussed. And there's options that we are willing to sit and discuss with the city on how we can implement those, but at least help us to stop the bleeding, if you will, going forward. And we'd be able to align those costs with the rates so that we don't continue to build this past amount that just continues to grow.
Absolutely. I was going to say that the justification has been brought forward, and Waste Management did provide that justification as to why it fits the criteria to have this consideration. And we do have some time here for more discussion. Thank you.
Jim, I saw you raise your hand, Jim.
Yeah, Lisa, you know, Teresa, one thing, thank you for the update. Is what took place in the rate increase, the time frame. They missed the window. And it, you know, sometimes it happens, but also I realize that, hey, you know, as like Johnny says earlier, you know, sometimes, you know, things happen and we have to kind of fix it down the road. So this is one of these issues where we have to fix it down the road. Myself, you know, I'm looking at the city manager to go back, negotiate the increase. The CPI it's automatic. But the other issue that Waste Management wants to address is the additional cost that's taking place in the recycling. And I believe that if you know, down the road, we're going to either pay it now or pay it later. You know what I mean? That in life, we're good neighbors now. We're good, you know, good business people right now. And they're understanding, very appreciative people. And so are we. And I believe that we should go back and let the city manager negotiate the some cost savings on the behalf of Waste Management, and maybe getting an agreement. You know, maybe we'll get some better deals down the road for us as far as the city, for our residents.
I would like to clarify that we did not miss the window of opportunity.
Oh, okay. I apologize.
We began requesting in 2018, and I do have documentation that shows that.
All right. Right. When they said you missed the window.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I just wanted to clarify that on our.
Okay. No. Hey, I'm first on it. Hey.
Thank you for allowing me to do that.
I apologize.
No.
Thank you, Lisa.
I have a question. Okay. Liz mentioned that she brought this to the city back in 2018, but Teresa mentioned that there was a timeline that wasn't met. Who didn't meet the timeline?
So in 2018, I wasn't here with that. My understanding is that did not move forward at all. That did not come forward at the time. Last year, when I was approached, when the city was approached, my understanding is that application needed to be complete and the documentation and the justification for this special consideration needed to be provided within 20 days before it had to be, within 90 days before it had to become effective. And the documentation that we received showing that there was legislation that created this scenario for waste management was received by the city, and it is in your documentation here. In June of 2019. June 20.
That was to show the ongoing, that it met with the criteria set forth in this section that allows us to actually have a special rate interim. That was for 2019, but our original request was in 2018 to add that special interim rate review. Why it wasn't addressed, you know, I don't know.
Why wasn't it addressed in 2019 then, in June?
Because there wasn't time to get it on to do the process and get it on the property tax rolls. There's a time frame. The property.
It requires a 45-day Proposition 218 notice.
But you don't think that it would have been a good
you also
conversation
have,
in regards to our community, so our community residents know that there's something coming? I mean, we got to get the pulse of our community. This is a rate increase. This is something. Right now, we turn around, we tell them that we're going to increase this rate. They're looking at waste management saying, is this a fair? Are you putting them in a fair position to adhere to what their increase is? That's my question. And you're saying that we missed it in March or April of 2018, and then we missed it in 2019, and now here we are in 2020, and we have 2 months to go. And if we don't do this, we're going to be slapped with. And I understand what Jim's saying about just, hey, let's do it and let's hit the manager, go ahead. But I look at it as a business standpoint. We are the CEOs of the city of Selma, and somebody's dropping the ball. We just I would like some clarification to what's going on and who's dropped the ball and who's actually picking it up and who's moving it. I can understand the clarification of the justification, it having 30, 60, 90 days, the windows. But what are we doing in staff to make sure that we give every vendor a fair opportunity to compete for their services, and who's in charge of that?
So
from our perspective, it was a continuation of our ask of 2018, and we've submitted with the guidelines and the timeline of the agreement. But you know, we're always willing to come to the table with you. You have been a great partner with us, and that's what we consider ourselves. We're part of Selma. We're part of that community. We want to be there for you, and we haven't faltered in our services, and that's not what we want to do. As I mentioned, we just want to align our costs and our revenue going forward. And at some point, we can discuss the past costs. I mean, I know that's not what we're here for this evening, to discuss that, but at least we want to have the opportunity to do so. We have always had that relationship where if we needed something, we would come to you. If you needed something, you would come to us, and we would work it through together as the partners that we are. And that's what we're asking for this evening, that we have that ability, that the resolution before you this evening is to help us align those costs going forward, address that issue of, you know, these added costs that we didn't have at one point, and now here we are in a different time, in a different place, mainly revolving around recycling, and we're now being charged for something that we were not charged for in the past. What do we do with those costs? So we came to you to try to address that.
Hello, Councilman Robertson. I'd like to weigh in on this. You know, I don't think there's anyone here who hasn't benefited from Waste Management's generosity, and they've been a really great partner with the city and with individuals and nonprofits. That being said, on April 20th, we have some unprecedented cost pressures that people are facing. It's a time of uncertainty. We've mentioned that, I think, every single agenda item except for the last one. The cost increases are really, really problematic right now. They're never to be looked for, but right now they're even worse as people struggle when they're not working to figure out, when they're going to get paid next, and businesses are in the same situation. That being said, so is waste management, and you've had some costs that have been unrecovered. Obviously, I could see from this, and it just seems from a common sense standpoint tonight that the best way to address this is, many have said, authorize the city manager to negotiate the city manager to negotiate the special rate increase along with the CPI on perhaps a phased-in basis, rather than shutting the door, and also rather than just saying, let's just pay everything now. To me, that seems like that's a fair compromise to agree to tonight.
I agree. I mean, normally that would make sense, but staff had 2 years to deal with this, and this was my concern. Staff has had 2 years to deal with it. So now in 6 weeks or 2 weeks or 4 weeks, they're gonna do what they couldn't do in 2 years. That is my concern. But if we want to give them a shot to somehow figure it out, they couldn't figure it out in 2 years. And what I don't want to see is loss of service for our community, because when they say green waste and recyclables, what that is your lawn clippings. And with the way it was explained to me, if this doesn't get addressed, that they're going to reduce service. So who wants to go to talk to the residents and say, oh, yeah, green trash can, they're going to pick it up once a month, but that's okay. I'm sure a month's worth of yard clippings will fit in there. Hey, none of us want to see that happen. So I am a bit frustrated on this point, but I want us to work through things. And even if they're uncomfortable things like increases and stuff, we have to move forward. It's the best way to serve the community. So those are just my thoughts on that I wanted to share. So go ahead, Jim. Sorry, I was looking down.
Franklin, you're right. Something happened in the past. Now we're dealing with it now as a council. And, unfortunately, we got to pick the ball up and run with it now. So like Johnny says earlier, but, and I believe that, we should authorize the city manager to negotiate and the rate increases and keep the CPI as way it is, at 2.15, come to the table and try to fix this. Because if we don't, it's got to be fixed either one way or the other, guys. Like you said earlier, who wants to have their green waste filled to the brim and a month pick it up later? No way, it ain't gonna happen. People will be furious. So
right, and we don't want to say, oh, because of that, we're gonna make this big increase. So, my apologies for interrupting, Jim, but Teresa,
yes,
can you get something to us that will work?
Yes, I think we have the justification. We need to talk about what the rate is, and we can bring that back to you. And we have some time here to give you updates along the way.
So we're not going to be sitting here, or whoever's on council a year later is going to be saying, oh, we missed the timeline because we didn't get the paperwork on time.
No, we are starting this process timely right now. In this phase.
We're fixing the problem.
I have a question.
Councilwoman Guerra?
I think we should go ahead and move forward with giving Teresa the authority to come with the plan and make things, I want to make a motion, then I should just make the motion and say, I'd like to move forward and giving Teresa the direction to come to an agreement with the rate that's fair to waste management, fair to the city, and then maybe phase in some additional fees. I just would like to see it, because I don't want to see, again, this drop the ball, because in all fairness to Teresa, she wasn't here probably when it first initially started. So, and neither were myself and Trujillo, but nevertheless, let's move forward let's get this resolved, because Waste Management is a great partner, a great business partner, with Selma. So that's what I'd like to move forward with the motion.
I would agree, and I would second that motion.
Okay. Before I call roll call, does any other council member wish to, or anybody want to make a comment on this?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, if we could also consider adopting this resolution in support of the CPI, which is a contractual obligation, so that we can start those preparations as well.
If you adopt that resolution, it needs to be changed. It has the wrong percentage number in there. So we need to change that to 2.15.
Thank you. Thank you, City Attorney.
2.15, that's correct.
2.15.
Councilwoman Mayor Pro Tem Guerra, do you wish to modify your motion?
Yes, I'll modify the motion.
Thank you.
And I'll second that modified motion.
With that, are there any other comments from council?
No.
Okay. I don't remember if I opened it to public comments, just so, City Clerk, did I open this item up for public comments?
You have not at this time. So at this time, I'm
Okay.
going to end one caller that we
Okay,
have
before,
on the line. You were saying? Caller
hello?
on the line, do you have any comments on agenda item number 5 regarding the consideration of a request and application from Waste Management for special interim rate review to increase annual refuge charges to be added to the 2021 Fresno County property tax roll, in addition to annual consumer price index increase? And with that, there is no public comment.
All right, so I will bring it back to council, and then I will ask for roll call of Mayor Pro Tem Guerra's motion.
Mayor Pro Tem Guerra,
Aye.
Councilmember Robertson, Councilmember Avalos,
Aye.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Aye.
Mayor Franco.
Oh. Okay,
I'm sorry,
motion
Mayor,
passed.
what was that?
No. Okay, we are now moving on to our departmental reports. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. We are beginning our work on our budget, and we have been working on that for some time. And as you know, we are looking at some challenges ahead, with the state now indicating that we have entered into recession and letting us know that that forecast we should be looking at is approximately a 3-year horizon. We're estimating approximately 10% in cuts that we're looking at, and holding vacancies until we work through the budget process. So at our next meeting, we'll do some quarterly updates and kick off those discussions, and also revisit council's priorities, so that when we bring you the first draft budget, we have some feedback from you on your priorities. Dr. Ryle won't be participating in that process, but we can go ahead and provide you last year's priorities that you gave us and get any comments that you have as far as updating them. Also, I wanted to let you know that we did, I think I shared with you that we have applied for Measure C funds up to a $200,000 grant to assist with impact fees on a 20-unit apartment complex. We've been invited to the Fresno County Council of Governments Scoring Committee to make a presentation on that grant application for those Measure C funds to assist with that development. Because of COVID-19, that presentation has been pushed out to May 5th, and we'll keep you posted, but we hope to be successful with that. Also, an update on our housing element. As you know, we had a property owner that had been identified, but things changed with that property owner. We have now identified a new property owner with 10 acres that is interested in rezoning, and we are working with them to fill out the application to rezone that property so that we can become compliant with our housing element. And we have sent an update to state HCD as well to let them know on our progress. Thank you.
All right. City Attorney?
No reports, Mr. Mayor.
Do we have community development online? Or
Mr. Mayor, I think at this point, we'd like to go ahead and have our fire chief give you a COVID-19 update that would include all of the department's COVID activities, if with your permission.
okay, that'd be fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. I'd like to give you just a quick overview of our COVID-19 response throughout the community. I'll start with a quick review. Next slide, Brenda. Starting on March 16th, council adopts a resolution declaring local emergency. Also on March 16th, we activated the city's emergency operations plan. On March 18th, the city started to take steps to close facilities. This included City Hall, fire administration, some parks, restrooms, and things like that. On March 19th, the governor issues the stay-at-home order and closes non-essential businesses. And on March 20, the city begins to take measures to follow the governor's stay-at-home order. Next slide, please, Raina. So our approach has been a three-step model to handling the emergency. We've started out with outreach, education, and then into enforcement. And our outreach efforts have gone out to at-risk residents, local businesses, and also with some local stakeholders. We actually assisted several of our healthcare facilities right away with N95 masks because we had some extras at the time, and several of our facilities had none. So we were able to help them out right off the bat. We've also worked with education, and really education has been the main aspect of this response. We've worked educating employees, community members, and our many volunteers that we've had helping out the community in various ways. And then enforcement. Some of our efforts, basically our enforcement has been related to the stay at home, parks and schools, and non-essential businesses. And those have been kind of the areas that we've seen we've had to focus on. Next slide, please, Raina. And really, the community has really come together. We've had a great team approach, this one community approach to helping everybody out. City staff and leadership, there isn't a department within the city that hasn't been involved. And our council members, Mayor, many of you have also been involved in various aspects of the response throughout the community. We've had too many volunteers to name it during this presentation. I know that Mike has a plan to really give a more thorough acknowledgement to all of our volunteers as we move forward with our response. And many community businesses and organizational support. The healthcare district, they've been great. They have ordered, or in the process of ordering, approximately 2,500 cloth masks that we will be able to hand out to city employees, at-risk residents, and any other members of the community that aren't able to get their hands on them. These masks, cloth masks, paper masks, they're going to be really part of our future for the foreseeable time. Even once we open back up, and we do so slowly, I believe very firmly that we are still going to be wearing these masks when we're out in public. They have been difficult to come by. We have had a lot of difficulty coming across paper masks for our staff out in the community. We've had plenty N95s to handle our responses, but the paper masks have been difficult to come by. So these masks are going to be invaluable to all of us. We've had MV Transportation assisting Chicago Pizza, Max's Brunch House, Subway, Selma Embarking Voluntary Actions, Me and Ed's, Kaiser, Permanente, American Legion Post 12, Calwater. These are just a few of the businesses and organizations that have helped out in town. Walmart, they've been incredibly valuable in helping us get supplies. Home Depot as well. It's just been a great community response. Next slide, please, Raina. So some of our outreach efforts, reaching out to the at-risk community members. We've provided, and Mike and his staff at the Senior Center and our various volunteers have been integral in this aspect, but providing approximately 175 lunches per day. And I believe Mike can attest that that number has steadily grown throughout this process. We've had a collaboration with the Selma School District to provide these lunches, which began on April 9th. And we also have monthly food giveaways to seniors. Some of our efforts toward our local businesses include economic development. Has handled almost 100 calls from businesses and residents needing support. We've had outreach to 35 businesses in response to comments and complaints. Next slide, please, Raina. And then some of our educational efforts. We've had ongoing meetings with city staff. And as this process has escalated, as we've seen more and more positive cases, as you can imagine, the anxiety levels go up, and they've gone up with staff, they've gone up with the public. We've done our best to help provide enough education to these folks that it has eased some of their concerns over time. We've had signage and educational handouts. We've utilized the city website and social media postings. We're helping with education awareness to the many local organizations who stepped up to help the community with our various food giveaways. Just trying to provide guidance to them on sanitation and other preventative measures while they're giving out their food. We provide education awareness to the at-risk community members regarding health and wellness checks, lunches, and other topics. Next slide, please, Raina. And for our local businesses, we've had approximately 250 contacts receiving weekly updates on key information changes for our local businesses. DevelopSelma.com has had 631 visits over the past 4 weeks. We have COVID-19 resources page, which has 8 sections of resources with more than 50 links and documents to useful information for both businesses and residents. And then DevelopSelma.com Instagram has up to now 48 followers. And these are just all ways that we have been reaching out in our efforts to educate the community as we move forward. Next slide, please. Enforcement. And even with our enforcement efforts, we've tried to focus as much as we can on educating. When we've closed the parks and the school grounds, and even with those closures, we still did have over the weeks people gathering, people still getting out to play basketball, pickleball, other things like that. And we did provide education to them And in many instances, they were trying to do what they could. I haven't spoken with the group that were playing basketball. When I approached them, they were out there. They had a thermometer with them and had taken each person's temperature to make sure that none of them had a fever before they start playing. The pickleballers, they were doing their best to keep their social distancing going. Unfortunately, there were just too many aspects, too many opportunities for them to be out, and opportunities to spread or potentially spread COVID-19. So we did start to have to do a little more to try to prevent those gatherings, at which point we did remove the basketball hoops and the pickleball nets to discourage these gatherings. We have had approximately 24 businesses visited either by economic development or code enforcement related to COVID-19. And we have seen compliance improve over the past couple of weeks, especially our efforts leading into the Easter weekend, which the weather became pretty nice, and we were concerned that we were going to start to see more folks try to get out to the parks and things like that. And we didn't see that materialize, so we were pleased with that. Our ongoing efforts as we continue to move forward in the weeks ahead, we're really trying to continue to minimize outdoor activities to the immediate households. And basically what we're saying is that if a mother and a father and kids, they go out to the park to play some ball or do something like that, then it's okay. As long as outside family members and things like that don't come in and join them, then it becomes a gathering. So if it's the immediate household, it's okay. Anything more than that, it becomes a gathering, and then it becomes a little more hazardous and the risk of spread increases. So as we move forward to tracking, tracking has our finance department has had been heavily involved with that side of things. All COVID-19 related expenditures are being tracked by our finance department. Labor is being tagged in our time system or a manual time cards by the payroll clerk to identify and separate. Operational expenses are tagged by city staff on claim forms and CalCard logs. All expenses are being reviewed by the assistant city manager for approval and will be submitted to Cal OES and or FEMA for reimbursement purposes. The grant portal that will be used for reimbursement has been established, and the request for public assistance has been filed and approved. Economic development is also monitoring COVID-related grant and funding opportunities, such as the DOJ's Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Program. Next slide, please, Rana. And as we move forward in the coming weeks, we're already starting to hear talk of I know we're all hoping to get the economy back up and going, starting to ease some of the restrictions. Everything we're hearing is that testing will be a major factor in allowing us to do this. We've already started to see some expanded testing which has begun throughout Fresno County. Our information on that, unfortunately, is pretty limited as far as what the county health department is releasing. I'm sure some of you saw it in social media, or I know there was an article in the Fresno Bee that there had been some testing, some localized testing done here in Selma. We did try to confirm that. However, we were unsuccessful. They're keeping tight lip on some of these efforts, but it's really a good thing, because the more testing that gets done, the more and the quicker that we can start to open things back and limit some of our restrictions. Contact tracing is another thing you're probably hearing about, the ability to take a person who has been positive and determine who they've had close contacts with over time. This will be another aspect of allowing us to continue to move forward. There'll be a slow lifting of the stay-at-home restrictions. Right now, our current restrictions are in place until further notice. I know the president, he's talking about lifting restrictions May 1st. However, the state of California, the governor of California, and the Fresno County order, they mirror one another. Right now, their language is that it's in place until further notice. We'll still have continued social distancing practices. And the city manager's touched on a little bit the financial impact. Staff is currently evaluating the financial impact the COVID-19 pandemic will have on the city's 2020 and 2021 budget, and future budgets after that as well. At this point, that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yes. Yes, Robert. Quick question, Robert. Everybody comes to work. Do you guys take their temperature?
Yes, we do. Every morning, each department has a thermometer and a questionnaire. And there are a list of questions related to potential existing signs and symptoms. And then we do take temperatures.
How about when they leave ship? You take it then when they leave, or you just take it once?
Just once for most of the staff. For our staff who are working 48 hours within the fire department, we do every 12 hours.
Okay, so basically, the reason why I'm asking you that, this COVID-19, you could be on ship, may not have, by the end of the day, you might have picked it up somewhere. So, I'm looking at the scenarios of life, of preventive and being smart. And, I just wanted, I asked you that question because you guys, you're on call. You have to go to the house, you have a mask on. I understand that. But what you touch, you get back on the truck. You know what I mean? Even though you have the gloves, you know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
We do have some pretty strict decontamination guidelines right now, related to any responses that we have to either a known case or a suspected case. There's a proper removal of all of their PPE when they leave the residence before getting into the engine. There's decontamination wipes, spray, everything for their boots. Back at the stations, we have outfitted 2 of our older breathing packs to become spray guns. So we can actually spray. We purchased a couple spray bottles and they're almost like paint sprayers. And we have plenty of disinfectant that we can spray the insides and out of all of our apparatus and up to including clothing if we need to.
Yeah, because you and the police are on the front lines. You go to the scene where a person is sick, then the ambulance is right behind you. But I want the precautions, because we don't have a great army of volunteers at the fire department. We have a limited staff, so I just want to make sure you guys are safe on the front lines. Okay.
They are.
I want to make sure that you guys do every precaution measures, even
absolutely
on work and when you leave. You know what I mean? I don't want nobody to, be infected, man.
Absolutely. The county has some pretty strict protocols that we've had in place for several weeks now. We now wear, and we have for several weeks now, have worn a mask on every single call. Whether or not we suspect it to be a COVID-related case or not, we wear an N95 on every call, and until we get there and determine that it's not, then they can remove the mask. And then and only we're talking for something that's obvious, such as a trauma or something like that, then they don't have to worry so much about it. But any call now, we wear an N95 until the crew can reliably determine that it's not a COVID-related call.
Okay. No, you're doing your job, Robert. Thank you. Tell your people thank you.
Thank you.
Be safe. That's all I got to say.
I got a question for the fire chief. Chief Peterson,
Where's the testing going to come down? Is it going to come through the county, through the fire department? Because really that's the key for a lot of these businesses opening back up.
It'll be coming through the county.
And
The county,
right now,
from what we heard, that they had partnered with Adventist Clinic to get some test samples done there. That was what we were trying to get a little bit of information on today, but we were kind of unsuccessful. Our contacts within the EMS community didn't have that information. We just know that they had been into the area and gathered what we understood was to be several hundred samples.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for the chief? Or, Public Works, do you wish to comment on anything?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, real quick from Public Works. We will be moving forward on the Tucker Street one-way. I've ordered all the signage for it, and I'm currently coordinating with the engineering and a contractor on that project. I plan to have it complete in the next couple of weeks. You guys have probably seen this paint crew out on the streets. We started painting. We did all the railroad crossings. We moved on to the school crossings. It's kind of convenient because school is out right now. And then we'll be moving forward to all our street legends, et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to retrofit one of our arc circuits coming up real quick. So you will see construction downtown. It's on the Hollywood, the street lights down there, the black poles. We have 3 arc circuits left in the city. They're very unsafe, to be honest with you. They're non-cost effective, if you will. They're not energy efficient. But anyways, we're going to move forward on that project also. And that's all I have. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just add one more quick update on our,
go ahead, Chief.
Our training center move. Just want to make sure council knows that is still in the works. We have been slightly delayed due to weather, but otherwise the crews are still out there. Site prep's almost done. And as soon as hopefully weather permitting, concrete will be poured this week. And we have 3 to 4 weeks to allow that to cure. And then we'll be talking with the movers to get that taken care of.
Great. Assistant City Manager Moreno, anything to share?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. A couple items. One, I want to give you an update on the state appropriation. We've been working, as you're well aware, with the State Resource Board or State Water Resource Board to get that document executed and moving forward. Right now, next meeting, I'll be bringing forward a resolution to be able to give the authority to the city manager to execute the documents necessary to approve those fundings. They do not project that contract will actually be ready until late June, early July. So we are still moving forward. They have the information they need as far as documentation on the description of the project, things of that nature, our federal identification numbers, and all of the preliminary documents necessary to build that contract. So everything's in their court at this point in time. The resolution that will be moving forward will just expedite that process. So once we do get the contract, we'll review it, obviously give it to the city attorney to review as well. But it will just allow us to move forward in a little more speedier fashion to be able to execute that for right now, instead of waiting for a later date and to get that contract waiting. Next item I have is, as our city manager says, baseline, we are working to look at what our sales projections will be, not necessarily just for next fiscal, but also for this fiscal. We do have the impacts that are coming down because of the update from the governor, as far as 2 items, 2 programs, as far as a 90-day temporary sales tax payment extension, as well as a small business relief program. What that program does is allow the small businesses for a tax liability for a quarter, for the first quarter of 2020, to actually defer those payments and make payment plans over a 12-month span. So it's not just the impacts of what the market's doing to us, it's also the governor's transactions or regulations they're putting down. They're going to impact overall budgets. So I'm pulling all that information together and hope to be able to get that information to you and see what our projections are going to look like. Not just for this fiscal, next fiscal, but also a couple fiscal years going down. The last items I want to update you on are from engineering. The projects that we have moving forward. The second phase of Floral Avenue, we had, as you're aware, you executed the contract and the bid awarding it. We had a preliminary meeting this morning just regarding traffic flow and how that's moving forward. So both chiefs have reviewed that plan and approval of it. They're looking to start work on that project in about actually Monday of next week. They will looking to start that project. Since there's not a lot of traffic flow currently going on because people are at the stay-at-home process, they're looking to have that done within a 2.5 week window. So they are going to move pretty quick on that. The other projects that we have in the works are for the arterial streets, Nebraska and alleys. We're currently processing the E76, which is a federal document that needs to be done. As we updated you on Nebraska before, the NEPA, that document has already been processed and final approval. So we're working on the approval, a preliminary approval for the construction phase of it as well. So all that documents are going forward, and I'll keep updating you as we go through those processes. That's all I have. Thank you.
Isaac.
Yes.
Isaac, did you hear anything about PERS, about supposedly suspending our rate pay or our fee?
Not anything about suspending. I know there's a lot of talks on the state level on how to give cities and counties relief in some format. There's a lot of things being thrown out. The biggest thing they're talking about is not necessarily relief, but the big unfunded liability that you're going to have, not necessarily in the full year of 2021, but it's actually maybe 21, 22. That's when you'll start having your reports come out, and you'll see where that ramification could be. As we're well aware, they all took the pension program took a major hit because of the market downturn. I want to say it was like 69 billion. So that's going to ramification that's going to affect all of us in our UAL payment as well as our normal contributions. So we'll continue to monitor that. Again, as I told you in previous meetings, I'm monitoring the market as it goes forward. We have seen some growth within the market, so that's a positive feedback. Hopefully that'll retain some of or be able to capture some of those losses and get us back to where we need to be. Considering where we're already in April, there's no way they can make up that full loss. It's just not feasible. So we'll just have to look and see what that looks like. But at this time, there's no conversation as far as how the relief is going to come forward, if any, at this point in time.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, on that question about PERS, I did see there was some legislation in one of our weekly updates that was being considered. I don't know if it's gone forward, but that would not allow PERS to reduce the discount rate further during this time. But I don't know if that had traction or if it's gone further.
Thank you.
And given the conversation, I'm sorry, Mayor, just one more comment. Just given the conversation that PERS has been projecting to us and some of the information that's out. Their big push right now is that they're in a stronger position than they were in the last recession. So they feel that they can weather the storm at this time.
That's good to hear. All right, with that, we'll move on to our police chief.
Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Chief. Yes, we can.
All right, very good. So it's my 48th day here, and I have found that Selma has a homeless problem. I spent a lot of time working on homeless issues. Rockwell Pond, just getting back to what Juan was talking about, that went very well. Been checking it daily. I was there about 3 hours before the meeting started, and nobody is back there. Tomorrow morning, Raven Properties will be cleaning up their portion of that property, and also the irrigation district will be cleaning up their portion of the property. I went by there today. I talked to a few people that are still out there. I let them know what's going to happen, but that property will also be cleaned up fully, just like Rockwell Pond. And what's happening is that Selmacom in Delphina, she has Super 8 Hotel, and she is placing people there. So some of the people from Raven will be placed. They have been placed there. She already has people at the hotel. And she also has trailers there provided by the county, I believe. If someone gets sick, they come down with symptoms, then they'll be placed in those trailers, and those are housed on the Super 8 property too. But she's been working closely with us to try and get housing for some of the homeless out here. So that'll happen tomorrow. And just quickly, I had a lot of stuff here, but I'm not going to go over it all. Most of it, just about all of it, I put out in press releases already. Just a reiteration of Friday, we had a firebug arsonist that was moving in the north part of the city. He started in the western part of the city over near Walmart, then ended up over past McCall, actually by the fire station over there. He lit about 9 fires. We got a description of him from citizens. An alert officer spotted him as he was coming back after his last fire, stopped him at Floral, right by the cemetery there, and it was our guy. He had evidence of doing the arsons, and he later confessed to detectives. And also, I guess the day before that, there was a fire or two, and I think he confessed to one of those fires too. I talked to detectives today about that. So that was a pretty good case. Who knows why he was doing it? I think he was kind of touched. He was a parolee, so he got charged with 9 counts of arson and for the parole violation. Let's see, what else here? A lot of guns. Officers getting a lot of guns off the street, a lot of gangsters in custody. I'm not going to go over each one of those, but I will go over the shooting that we had on April 3rd at 9:19 p.m. We had a shooting near Eric White School at Fig Street and Mitchell Street, and the victim got shot in the buttocks. Not life-threatening, but it looks like the shooters were bulldogs because of what they said to the victim, and detectives don't believe the victim is a gang member. So a case of mistaken identity. 2 suspects got out of a car. One had a stick, tried to hit the victim, missed him, and then the other suspect had a gun and shot, clearly shot on purpose towards his legs and hit him in the buttocks. We have a good description of the car. Detectives believe that car is not from Selma, so we're continuing to conduct investigation, and we're putting that vehicle description in the photo out to outline agencies to see if we can identify that vehicle and find out who these shooters are. Let's see, what else? Lastly, yeah, and the only other thing is just getting back to what's been some things said already is, I know we're holding on positions now, but right now I'm continuing to look at the structure of our agency, and we're down 2 lieutenants right now, 1 officer position, and a forthcoming a sergeant vacancy. So the department's down a little bit as it is coming into this. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Hey, hang on. I want to say something to Joe. Joe?
Yes.
Are you guys, when you go to work in the morning, check in, you guys taking your temperature?
Yes, every day.
Okay. Even when you leave?
No, we just do it once in the morning, once we start our shift.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's a good idea when you leave, take a temperature as well, just in case.
Yeah, that is a good idea.
It's a food for thought there. I just want you guys to be safe. You guys are out there. You and the fire department are out, especially you. You're getting the criminals. No telling what you're gonna get. Okay, so just be safe. Tell the guys be safe out there.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, and then last but not least, our Recreation Department, Mr. Kirshner.
Yes, can you hear me? I won't.
Yes, we can.
Won't say much. Chief followed up pretty well with us, but we are going to be doing a big thank you at the end. We have a lot of volunteers and a lot of organizations and businesses are donating. So we're about 180 meals tomorrow and free pizza on Wednesday. So we are doing outreach to seniors also to make sure that they don't, not just the need for food, but just either depression or concerns or transportation. So I appreciate everybody helping us out though. It's a consumes our whole morning by the time we get the deliveries and picking up the food, and the school district has been awesome. That was an unexpected to get lunch free. So
Good job. Okay. With that, we are going to move on to council reports. Jim?
Oh, man, I've been in, this old man's been in isolation, unfortunately, COVID-19. But you know what? The only thing I was going to ask Mike, those who do the food giveaways, these food giveaway programs, the question I'm going to ask is, are some of these people food handling safety certification people, or are just volunteers?
well, the
Like,
food comes from the school district, and so it gets delivered much like anything. So we wear gloves and masks.
but I mean, does anybody on site have a certification on a food handling safety deal? I know the school does, but I don't know.
Well, our recreation coordinator, we get the meals at the senior center, so she actually has a food service manager certificate, which is above
she's probably certified already. Foods. How about
she actually has above the food handling course. She has a manager.
Oh, okay.
course.
So she has so higher certification. That's good. How about the volunteers in our community? Do they have that certification, or we don't know?
Not each volunteer doesn't, but they just deliver the meal that's already packed. So
how about the people on the programs on the street? You know, like Davina does and other churches, and do they have the food handling safety certifications, or is it just they just pack the thing and they give it to them?
Those prepackaged foods are different than when you're cooking a meal. You don't have to have the food service manager as you would when you're getting cooked meals, or the meals are already prepared.
Like pizzas and stuff like that. Anything that's cooked, you need a certification. Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. And they're all wearing the gloves. Everybody that, how would I say, does food giveaway, they do all the proper procedure. We have a list to give to them, right, for COVID-19 to be safe as far as handling foods and stuff like this, or preparation as far as giving stuff away.
We've sent them the same health checklist that the city uses, asking them questions. We've encouraged them to wear masks and gloves. And actually, Chief Peterson and we've driven around and kind of monitor them at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Mike, Jim, let me just real quick. Both my restaurants, they're certified chefs, and when Mike's crew, they have a really good crew, and they're documenting everybody's temperatures. They're wearing masks. They're wearing gloves. I'm really proud of that organization, Mike. I just wanted to step in real quick, Jim. One of my both of the restaurants, Max's Brunch House Cafe, are both chefs at Roscoe's. He's also, and the procedures they were using, they're all being checked with temperatures and the gloves. So I've been at all the locations, and I see everybody wearing gloves and masks.
Well, yeah, it's okay to wear gloves, Donnie, but as we check our temperatures and make sure that we're doing the proper things to keep people safe, because the reason I'm asking these questions is, for unknown reasons, City of Selma has a higher rate of the Cobra situations versus Kingsburg and Fowler. And of course, we're not in Mariposa. They don't have any, that's the concern. I want to make sure that everybody's doing their job properly and being safe to the residents that are going to get the food and giving the food to them. I want to make sure they're doing are we giving a piece of paper, make sure that when you go home, you guys wash your hands, little tips that we tell the people that are going to pick up these things, or little notes in those packages. Hey, I know the school does. I know the grammar school does, and the high school. There's notes. Please wash your hands before you do this. They're doing. I know they do that. So I'm just curious if we're doing it as a group, as a citizen wide, we're on the same page. That's all I got. That's as far as.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah.
Are you done with your report?
I'm done with my report.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Councilman Trillo.
Hey, we've been a little busy. I know that as a civic leader, we do have to mind what we're doing, and my office has been since March has been working with the good amount of business owners from Selma, Kingsburg, Fowler, Wheatley, and we've been sharing with them the PPP program and some grants, and we've got a couple of good success stories. Since it's closed down, we're actually moved over to advance payment of employee credit dues, and we're just giving information out. And that's probably one thing, as you know, us being civic leaders, it's all about giving people information. A lot of our little small business, we're the hub, and that's what I've been doing. We try and just giving people information so they can get their credits as small business owners here in Selma. We have a lot of them, and a lot of them are just kind of little. And we've been giving a lot of information out, and I'm really happy, and I'm really happy about the SIVA, their group, giving out donations. I'm happy the way they're giving out, wearing the gloves and wearing their masks, and how you guys are taking the temperatures. And it's been really successful. I'm really proud of Selma in a whole. The fire department, police department, the staff, the city, everybody's been working really good, and this community should be proud of itself. And that's all I have. We've been really active, and we're keep on moving and helping our community. And thank you.
Hey, Councilman Robertson.
I said the last meeting, a crisis doesn't create character, it reveals it. I'd like to say thank you to all the healthcare workers on the front lines who work through a really scary time and heartbreak and their own personal risk to keep the rest of us safe. And all the employees who continue to provide essential services. I'm in awe of you. You know, you make our country great. You do it silently and professionally without asking anything in return. And last of all, I'd like to thank all the citizens who have stayed home. You know, you're the heroes in my book too, for not going out and exposing others to this virus, even though you've been cooped up for weeks in a really challenging and trying situation, but you're coming through with colors. In terms of the committees that I've attended, I attended a CalVans board special meeting, all remotely, by the way. The CalVans provides vans to farm workers and correctional officers. I also volunteered for the finance committee and attended that subcommittee meeting. I attended a 3.5-hour board meeting of the Kings Basin Water Authority. Also wanted to let everybody know that the animal shelter is still closed, but still caring for all of the dogs and cats and kittens. And the few have dumped the people, we dumped the animals, we've picked them up from fields, streets, gutters, and we continue to find them homes with caring people who love them and make them part of their family. On Friday, I was on a call with over 700 others to hear the California Department of Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara and Small Business Association representatives discuss insurance coverage, premium payment issues, and business support opportunities. I gathered a lot of information from that call and would be happy to discuss that with anyone who is interested. I don't know if you've heard, the insurance commissioner did order the insurance companies in California to rebate premiums to the insureds. They have 120 days to do that. I think the companies are scrambling to get that done. So I'd like to say thank you to the Selma Healthcare District again for their generous donation of 2,500 masks, hard, much needed masks for food giveaways for the city and for first responders. You know, Thomas Paine said in The Rights of Man, these are the times that try men's souls, all people's souls. This has been a fearful time in which those who continue to do the right thing and stay home because it's the right thing to do have revealed the incredible character of Selma, Selma Strong.
Thank you, Councilman Robertson. Mayor Pro Tem Guerra.
Yes. I don't know why mine's so muted, so loud. I kind of want to sit. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. We can hear you.
Okay, first I'd like to mention about the census. I know I mentioned this to Raina of coming up with the plan. Maybe we could do a robocall. I haven't heard anything yet. Do we know where we are with that?
Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Garrett, we have discussed that we can do that, and we certainly have started putting some things on Facebook as well. So you should see on all of the city's affiliated Facebook pages, promotional materials about the census. And the city clerk also reached out to the senator's office, some of the yard signs as well. Was there anything additional, Raina, you wanted to add? She said, I got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then also, Teresa.
Yes.
Can we get an updated spreadsheet on all the projects and everything that's going on with the city?
So with planning specifically, planning, engineering.
Yeah, with everything in general.
Yeah, I'm sure we can come up with a list. I know we have a planning one, engineering, we can talk to them about theirs and get back to you.
Okay, that'd be helpful. Thank you. That's it for me.
I guess it helps if I unmute myself, right? My apologies. I first want to start off, before I forget, I want to wish Lieutenant Dick a happy retirement, who retired, I believe, April 2nd in the early days of the pandemic. And I told him once this is all done and we're back to normal, that we are going to bring him into City Hall and give him a proper farewell send-off. But congratulations to Myra and Dick for 32 years of service to the community of Selma. I participated in several weekly calls with Cal EOS, calls from mayors and city manager, along with the city manager, which is, as we know, this information is constantly coming out and changing. And then I participated in a virtual meeting hosted by TJ Cox in regards to the CARES Act and the SBA programs for small businesses. And that was very informative. So thank you to the congressman. And I really want to, in fact, on that note, I really want to thank all our legislative representatives that we have for Selma, Senator Hurtado, Assemblyman Arambula, and Congressman Cox. Each one of them have called me 2 or 3 times just to discuss not only the COVID-19 crisis, but how are we going to move forward after the crisis is over and through this upcoming economic crisis to put our constituents in a better place to recover. And off one of those meetings, we had a very productive meeting with the city manager, Townsend, Chris Com, about some EDA grants that Congressman Cox pointed our way. So hopefully we can get something on that done. And I really want to thank all the organizations that you all mentioned who have supported the community of Selma. I think Selma should be very proud of everything they're doing on all levels, as residents, as businesses, as city staff. I think we are showing our character, as Scott mentioned. We're showing our true character on the way we do things. But I do want to give a special thanks out to the Sikh temple on Dinuba and Golden State, just across from the freeway lanes there. As I'm sure many of you know, they held a food giveaway and gave over 60,000 pounds of food on Sunday. And they were in partnership with Plaza Transportation, Chema Freight Lines, and special thank you to Selma Freeway Lanes and the Fowler Police Department for donating some tents, and the SAVA volunteers who helped man the operation. It was a big endeavor, but they did it, and they did it efficiently. And we had some VIP volunteers who really stepped up and really spent the day they're working. They actually were working. I saw them. They were not just there for a photo op, but they actually worked a good considerable amount of hours. And that was Congressman Cox, Assemblyman Dr. Rambula, Selma Council Member John Trujillo, Kingsburg Council Member Jewel Hurtado, State Community District Trustees Magdalena Gomez and John Leal, who both districts overlap into our community of Selma. So thank you for them for coming out to Selma to help make a difference in our valley. And just to emphasize what Mayor Pro Tem Guerra is saying, don't forget about our 2020 census. If you're still staying at home and you need somebody to talk to, call it in. It gives you somebody to talk to for a couple of hours. And when we do go out, as long as we continue to practice our physical distancing, I think we will got to stress that we can't let our guard down because we're still in the midst of this pandemic. And we are going to get through this, and we are going to get this through together. But how well we get through it is going to depend on our actions, both as citizens, as business owners, as city employees. And it's the little things that we all do and the way we support each other is going to help us get through this in a better state than as possible. So with that, I just like to tell everybody be safe out there. And that's it for me. So with that, we'll move on to oral communications. Notice to the public, at this time, any member of the public may address the city council regarding any item which the council has jurisdiction. No action or discussion will be taken on any item not on the agenda. Issue raised will be referred to the city manager for review. Members of the public shall limit the remarks to 3 minutes. City clerk, is there anybody wishing to make a comment?
There is no public comment.
Okay, do we have a motion for adjournment? I'll take that as a yes. Thumbs up to adjourn? Okay. Thank you, everybody, for our first Zoom, and hopefully we'll get a little bit more efficient at it. Won't take so long next time. Thank you very much. Okay, Ray, you can close the meeting.
Thank you, council members, again for participating in our first one. I think it was very successful.
Thank you. Thanks for having the meeting.
Everybody be safe out there.
Take care.
I got my
Likewise.
mask. I got my mask.
Good job, Raymond.
Put it on.
Yes. Joe might think I'm a robber.